Well, I'd like to call to order the July 9th, 2020 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals special meeting this evening at, let's see, at 7:07. Jen, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Kempa.
Here.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Here.
Commissioner Taman. Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Mellon.
Here.
Commissioner Saywert.
Here.
And Chairman Dash.
Here. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and our case this evening, just one case of old business. It's continuation of PZBA zoning public hearing, case number ZBA 20-08. The applicant is Lexington Homes, addressed at 1731 North Marcy Street, Suite 200, Chicago, Illinois, 60614. And the applicant is seeking the following approvals. The first is a map amendment to rezone the property from R1 single family to R2 general residential district. The second request is for a special use for a planned unit development. And the third request is for preliminary plat, preliminary engineering, and preliminary subdivision approval. So I would like a motion, please, to reopen the public hearing on case number ZBA 20-08.
I'll make that motion. Commissioner.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner DeGraff, a second by Commissioner Saywert. Okay, so, Jen, a roll call vote, please, to open the public hearing.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Saywert.
Aye.
And Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, so before we resume taking public testimony, I just want to let everyone know who's dialed in this evening that there will be no vote taken this evening. The residents have obtained counsel, and they have pursuant to, they have the right to request a continuance pursuant to municipal code. And so in advance of the next special meeting that we'll schedule, give them an opportunity to obtain and review documentation and review the application, et cetera. So again, the neighborhood group has retained counsel, and counsel has requested a continuance this evening. So we will.
Thank you, Chairperson Dash.
Thank you. Hi, Lenny. How are you? Good evening. So the plan tonight then is to end public testimony at 10:30. I think 3.5 hours is plenty of time to hear the residents' statements. And then I believe following the meeting, then staff will communicate with myself and the other commissioners to determine the date of the next special meeting of our board. So at this point, I can't tell you when that date will be, but we will collaborate to find a date to have another special meeting. Okay, so before we again get started, the process this evening will be that Director Peterson has a list of those who have submitted to the city in writing their position on this case. So we already know who spoke at the initial meeting that we had on June 25th. So we'll pick up where we left off. So Director Peterson, again, we'll call names based on the date of receipt of the written comments on this application. But I would like to let everybody know who's called in tonight and who may be speaking, that all of the written comments for this case have been shared with all of the commissioners. It's a lengthy stack, but we have all of them. So we are aware of those issues submitted to us in writing. And I guess I'd like to just quickly summarize the items that have been raised in regards to this application. So I would encourage you to avoid repetition. If it's an item that, as a board and staff, that we're already aware of, you can, when you speak to give your public testimony, you can simply say that you've submitted your comments in writing and that you concur with those. And you can also state that if you're one of the people who signed the petition that was circulated, you can state that you concur with the concerns outlined in that petition. You don't need to restate all of those items. You don't need to restate all of the opinions that you've provided in your emails, because again, we have all that. So I'm just, again, trying to encourage you to either state that you concur with what you've submitted or with what's on the petition. And if you have anything additional to add, then we would welcome hearing additional testimony on matters that maybe we are not aware of that are of concern. So I'm going to go ahead and just summarize those items that were listed in the petition as objections to the application in front of us this evening. So the first item would be that the neighbors are opposing additional residents in this location. They are concerned about Oak Street being a single point of access for this community. There are concerns about pedestrian safety due to lack of sidewalks and streetlights. There was issues raised in regards to the increase in vehicle and foot traffic being generated by this development. Concerns about tree removal. Engineering items related to drainage and the water supply. How this development would impact Muir Park. How this development may impact property values, and concern about changing the zoning from R1 to R2. So again, to reiterate, as a board and staff, we're fully aware of these 10 items being a concern. And so we don't need to, everyone who's speaking this evening does not need to repeat those 10 items that I've just outlined. And I would also like to encourage people this evening, the applicant has obviously provided submittal materials that have been prepared by industry professionals, by engineers, by surveyors, by traffic consultants, wetland consultants, et cetera. So I would say, as a board, we make decisions based on finding of facts. So if you have, again, I know everyone's entitled to an opinion, but if you have facts or data to contradict the applicant's information that have been provided by these, engineers and industry professionals, I would encourage you to, state that in your testimony. So again, we're looking for evidence and facts, not, although we'll be listening this evening to your thoughts, having facts and data to contradict what the applicant has provided really is, would help to support your opinions. So with that being said, we will go ahead and start with resuming the public testimony.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Dash. Last hearing on June 25th, we were able to get through the first 8 public speakers who had submitted by date their comments. Tonight, I asked that if you're participant watching, to please make sure your phone or computer is muted during other people's time to speak out of respect. When you do get on the phone, if you could please give your name, spell the last name because a lot of them are difficult to spell, and your address for the public record. That would be appreciated.
I have to swear them in too.
And then Chairman Dash will swear everyone in as we come up. And then we will start at the point where we left off on the 25th. So the first speaker that's next in line is Michael Lenzing. Are you available tonight, Michael?
Okay, so let's go to the next one then.
Mr. William Mayu, are you available?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, Mr. Mayu, if you just give a moment, you did submit a short presentation that
Yes, I did, sir.
so if you just hold on a second while our AV person's getting that up, Chairman Dash can swear you in.
Absolutely.
Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely. As a professional witness, I do.
And if you could just state your name and address for the record, sir?
Sure. My first name is Bill. Official name is William. Last name is Mayu, Mayyou. I live at 1 Drake Terrace in Prospect Heights at the corner of the exit of this development. So I've seen what's been there for many, many years.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get your,
If you just, Mr. Mayu, if you just hold on one second. Patrick, can you get his presentation up, please?
There we go. Great.
Okay.
Okay. I will first off want to thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I have to also ask to be excused because I was a rather loud and obnoxious individual at the last meeting because it appeared that there was going to be a vote done by the committee, and I was hoping that was not the case. And of course it wasn't, and we all now are here for another day. It also appears that our person who is here at the site, I would hope Lexington has a representative so they hear the commentary from the voice. So I would ask that if the chairman at the end of my presentation could at least point out who that might be, it'd be great. Our concerns are many. Most of the subject division has many, many problems with flooding. The city has done very, very little to us to allow the flooding to occur. You will see the water to the point where in many of the drainage ditches, there are cattails growing in them. And it's because it's such a poor drainage area. And the area that's being done right now is just going to cause that to be even more so. The entire division has to fall to Ridgefield, and Ridgefield, as you know, also floods quite often. And now you're going to add even more water to that. And I say more water to that is because of the roughly area that you are doing, it's about 150,000 gallons of water just for a simple inch of rain. So when you look at that, you look at a pond that there, requires to be about 200,000 cubic feet. You're going to need a minimum of 10 4-foot above ground pools just for an inch of rain. And Chicago's average is what? 36 inches. There's a lot of rain coming this, guys. And that's the average. Averages is not what your drainage folks should be looking at. They should be looking at the 100-year rain functions. So when you say we have professionals that Lexington brought into this, you have professionals that could also offer a very negative opinion, even with those with opinion. Remember, they have an opinion here. They have a study here. There are people that could bring that same opinion opposite of what they have in showing that the flood problem would be very, very persistent. Next slide, please. Traffic study. Oh boy, I tell you, I haven't been here as long as my wife. My wife's been here since 1970. She lived at 3 Drake Terrace next to the house that I bought, which is one with her 33 years ago. At one time, you look at the number of cars that this site is going to produce. You have a 2-car garage. Most sites of this type will look at a 1.75 car units. So you're talking about 120 cars. And just so you know, I've been doing this type of work for many, many years. I've worked for a very large pharmaceutical company, and I did about 4,000. I was involved with about 4,000 pharmacies throughout the country on their installation. And we worked very closely with the planning and zoning committees, and we listened to them very well, and we made as many accommodations, not negative things, but many accommodations to make sure that we were a pleasant operation on the site, not a detriment to the community. Each car, on an average, makes about 3 trips a day. That's when I say 3 trips, 1 trip in, 1 trip out. And then, of course, you're going to have the extra trip. So it's about 3 trips a day. And that's, 6 times in the subdivision, and you got 720 trips a day. All of a sudden, your expert said 247 trips, not a problem. Well, we're looking at 3 times that. So there's another opinion that should be challenged. Each car, if we were to look at our subdivision here, we have 90. We have 90 folks here, and now your traffic expert says, "Oh, we don't need that right-hand turn lane. We can just have them all come out Drake." Oh, that's wonderful. So you're gonna take what, 8 houses right now with 12 cars approximately, times the number of trips. So you're gonna increase the traffic on Drake by roughly 600%. If not more, probably closer to 1,000 if you look at it. It's just because you're listening to your professional opinion that there's not a problem. Especially when he says, "Oh, forget that right-hand turn lane. You really don't need it." Well, I hate to say it, it was put in for one reason and one reason only. Many years ago, if you were here in this subdivision, you would realize that was put in because of all the football, all the traffic that was coming in with all the sports that Muriel was using and everything. It was because this place, sometimes we had traffic backed all the way up to the park, all the way through. Sometimes it take 20 minutes to an hour for some of these people to get out. Lots of times they just sat there and had lunch. But again, you guys don't know that because your traffic expert doesn't understand what this community is all about. Questions is, we're doubling the traffic on Drake's subdivision. That's if we just have it go one way. Now you're going to say, no, we're just going to go the other way. We're going to triple, if not quadruple the traffic. Why the left turn only sign be kept on Drake? It should. This is crazy if you're going to go left. At least give the people a fighting chance. Get the state of Illinois to put right only on 83, and then you might have a chance to get the people cleared out of the lot. And what will happen when cars park on the road? It's amazing. This past weekend, the police were called for this same problem. And next slide, please. It's amazing. Just a simple parking in our public way. We have 6.5 feet. My son, who is laying on the ground, is 6'4". You're amazing. Can you squeeze through a 6.5 foot opening? An average car, that's what the size of it is. But it would be very frustrating if 4 cars were parked on Drake, 2 on this side and 2 on. Nobody could get out unless the police were called. So planning and zoning folks, please make sure that we add extra officers online to make this problem go away. Or planning, you're going to have to recommend, either no parking on Drake or parking on one side or some sort, because something? National standards for emergency vehicles And I wonder if your expert brought this out, that it's supposed to be 20 feet wide. You know what ours is? 19 with a 12-inch stone shoulder, because we're a small community. We don't expect anything more than out allowed to use. We can't even park on the street, and that's great. I love it. It keeps people off the street. But there are times when we have people parked at the end of our driveway. I can't even get out. And you're now asking people to park on their street, and they're not allowed to park on the street? That's what you're asking. And now you're going to keep these poor people that are going to be in that subdivision. So I say to you today, going from R1 to R2 has never been done in this community before. It's always gone from what we had at the Rob Roy, which was a golf course. They made it into R2. Great, that's wonderful. You had open spaces. You had many accesses. You got one access here, guys. So I request that the board, first off, one, anybody that has any type of development process, if I was on this, I would excuse myself, because I would love to have been involved with this operation, but I have too many other things. I'm very heavily involved with my church, and I've been their properties chairman for many, many years of a school of 400 to 600 kids. So I've been very involved with that. Otherwise, I'd love to be in this stuff, because I do have an expertise in that. And you know something? My expertise would say, yeah, we got to develop. But you know what I do? I would abstain from voting. And then finally, my final question, I go to the chairman. Chairman, is anybody from Lexington there? Do they care about this additional discussion? And that'll be end my discussion. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, no, the applicant is participating in the Zoom call this evening, so they are hearing all the public testimony that is taking place.
That's fantastic. I thank you very much for the answer.
Okay, so now we will, Director Peterson will announce our next. Do you want to go back to the one who we missed?
Is Mr. Lensing on the line? Okay, I don't hear anything.
If they're muted out, how do they say that they're? Okay, go ahead. Go to the next one.
Is Miss Piccolo on the line?
Hello?
Hello.
I need to shut one of their phones. Yeah, I know. I want to do something.
There's 120 people on this property. It's like that.
Okay, so you know what? Patrick, I think I want to go to, let's try something different for taking the public testimony. In lieu of going in order, because with everyone muted out, it's hard to, for those people to come forward and say that they're on the call. So I'm going to try to call folks based on my view of who's participating in the call, and then Patrick, I wonder if Patrick, do you see them in the same order I do? Is Cheryl Weston the next one?
Mine are different.
No, different.
No.
You're gonna have to go to the participants, and they're in alphabetical order.
Okay, so, and then the phone numbers will end up being last.
That would be the one.
Okay, so then I'm gonna, based on the list, the people who are participating, Patrick will can I unmute them or no? Let me see here. No, I can't. Okay, so Patrick will unmute you, and then you can let us know if you want to provide testimony this evening. So the
Chairman
first,
Dash,
yes.
I'm sorry, this is Assistant Administrator Falcone. If I may give advice to the people who do want to participate, please, you can change your name on the participant list from your phone number to your name. This way, what Patrick can do is when your name is called, we can search for your name and unmute you. So if you could please do that, your first and last name, if you wish to participate, that would be easiest for us so that everyone can participate. Thank you.
Right, because, correct, because some of you have changed your participant name to other sayings and phrases and things of that nature. So we would need, if you would want to speak this evening, it would be helpful if you could rename to Peter's point, your name so we can call you. So let's start here first, I guess.
He's the attorney, Patty Thompson.
Patrick Glenn,
He's the engineer.
he's the engineer. Thompson,
Yeah, I have a, no, I don't have a Thompson on the list, but she can.
all right, so Patty Thompson, Patrick, can you please unmute Patty Thompson so we can see if she wants to give testimony this evening?
Yeah.
Hi,
Hello?
Patty, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, would you like to provide testimony this evening?
I would. So
Okay.
my husband and I live in the,
Patty, 1 second, please.
okay, sure.
Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay, and I would need you to please state your name and address for the record before you begin.
sure. My name is Patty Thompson and I live at 1066 Honeysuckle Drive in Wheeling.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Patty.
Okay, so my husband and I have a home in the Ridgefield subdivision. And our main concern, we have several concerns, but our main concern is we have 2 retention ponds that the storm water will flow into. And so our concern is our homeowners upkeep that pond with our HOA fees and other assessments. And so, we're concerned that it's gonna, you're gonna be dumping water into our ponds, and then we're the ones, our homeowners are the ones that are gonna be paying for that. Are you still there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, no,
So
we're
that-
just, everyone's muted out, Patty, so there's
Okay.
no, you have,
Sure,
you have,
I just heard a lot of silence. I didn't know if I was.
yeah, no, we are still
Okay.
here.
So that is our main concern that the stormwater they're saying at the meeting that was held at the school on that Tuesday, that they're gonna have a 36-inch pipe that's gonna flow from this development into our pond. So our homeowners then are responsible for the upkeep of additional water flowing through there. So that is our main concern. And the pond, with all that water flowing through there, there's a lot of pond erosion, which then causes us an assessment when it comes time for the ponds to be repaired. So it's a huge concern for our Ridgefield subdivision. And another one is, tearing down of all the trees in the park is just, it really tears at our hearts that we see all these trees being torn down. So basically, it's the storm water throwing into our ponds and then the trees being uprooted.
Well, thank you, Patty. I believe the applicant will be speaking to the stormwater management concern that you've raised
Okay.
in tree removal. Okay, so let's, thank you, Patty, appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's go next to Anna.
Yes.
Last name is spelled Piekuch. Patrick, if you could please unmute Anna. Okay, Anna, are you there? You're unmuted.
Yes, but my husband will speak for me.
Okay, so, sir, do you?
Yes.
State that,
State your name.
No, do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and if you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is James Pikesh. Last name is spelled P-I-E-C-U-C-H. I live at 13 Prospect Drive, Prospect Heights.
Okay, great. So go ahead. And I'm going to mute out. Go ahead.
Okay, my concerns obviously are similar to most of my neighbors and you know, as most of us, I'm opposed to this development. I have nothing personal against Lexington Homes. I just don't think this is going to work. I'd first like to say I really wish, this is probably still impossible, but I wish we could do an in-person meeting instead of this Zoom stuff. There's got to be a way we could do this outside with social distancing and masks and stuff, and not have all these technical issues. But I'm kind of old school when it comes to that stuff. My two main issues are, and it has been mentioned about traffic. A lot has been said, but what hasn't been said is the construction traffic. I've been in construction pretty much my whole life. I've been a licensed union plumber for 27 years. I know a little bit about construction traffic, trucking, etc. We don't have streets that can handle the hundreds of semi-trucks, 18-wheelers, truck and trailers, whatever you want to call them, that are going to have to come in and out to build this project. Once it's built, the traffic of the homeowners will be bad enough, but the first thing we're going to see is tremendous construction traffic that are going to take their toll on our streets. The streets aren't going to handle 18-wheelers of gravel that weigh 80,000 pounds, and there's going to be hundreds of them. But my biggest concern with the construction traffic is, as has been stated before, we don't have sidewalks. My two kids have to walk on these streets twice a day, every day when school's in session to get to the bus stop or to get to Wheeling High School. How are they going to walk on these streets when first thing in the morning the semis start rolling in? And semi drivers are not very considerate. A lot of them get paid by the load. They want to get their job done. They're in a hurry, and they're going to be tooling down our streets, potentially trying to pass each other on our tiny streets, as the other gentleman mentioned, that aren't very wide to begin with. And meanwhile, my children and other people's children, or any of us, are going to be walking on those streets. We've got nowhere else to walk. So that's my other major concern is still the well issue. It's been touched upon. I'd like to know if Lexington, or if it's going to be put in writing. I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to word this, but is there going to be any guarantees or compensation to us longtime existing homeowners that when they drill some giant well to supply water, both potable and fire protection, for 69 more units, basically doubling the draw around here, that our wells are going to survive. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you, James. So I would say that, yeah, I've already stated that we're aware that the community is concerned about the water supply and how it may affect the existing community. And we have asked the applicant to provide data in regards to that. So we are aware of that. And then I'm going to let Director Peterson speak to how our code addresses construction traffic and potential damage to existing infrastructure.
Thank you, Chairman Dash. The construction traffic will be planned and routes will be coordinated with IDOT and with Cook County Highway because of Elmhurst and Hintz Road. Additionally, we will inventory and survey the existing roads, and bonds will be in place, and the requirement on the developer to make sure that at the end of the project, the roads are in the same condition or better than what they were at the start of the project. That's part of our development code that we have on file, which will be addressed if this gets to a permit stage. Thank you.
Okay, so let's next go to let's see again, I would need a name on here. So Anne Marie,
That we just had her.
no, we did Anna, right? So Anne Marie, Anne Marie's iPhone, Patrick, if you could unmute Anne Marie's iPhone, we can see if she wants to give testimony.
Hi. Sorry, there's echo.
Yeah, if you have your computer audio on and a phone audio on, you'll need to turn one of them off.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you. So do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and if you could please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Anne Marie Glutowski, 585
How do you spell your last name, Anne Marie?
DLUTOWSKI.
Thank you. And your
Was that G or D?
D is in dog?
D. David, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And your address, Anne Marie?
585 Equestrian Drive, Wheeling.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Anne Marie. I'm going to mute out.
Yeah, so concerns, our home is directly across from the park, Pleasant Prairie. This development is, I believe, going to be behind that or adjacent to the park that we're near. Concerns are things that have already been mentioned with the retention of water, where that water is flowing. There's been a lot of flooding around in these areas, and there's a lot of concern. I've seen homes flooded. I've seen a lot of damage with water and rain, etc. So one of the concerns is the sewers that are and the drainage piping that's connected through all these properties, and that water runoff and where it goes and where it lands. And every year it gets worse and worse. And adding more development to this is just going to create even more stress on an existing old system. So that is a major concern. The other is issues of safety, following with more, need for, better or extended police patrol and infrastructure on also like first responders, and just adding more and more people to the community and to these areas. It just adds more stress on that as well. The other concern I have on these parks and areas surrounding, there is very limited lighting. That needs to be addressed too. The lighting around these areas is very dark and dim. We put floodlights in the front and back of our homes to help that scenario. But when you have more people traffic coming in and out on, by foot or by car, or just pedestrians walking through, there's always concern about added traffic, people not seeing people in the areas, the movement. It's just concerning that there is going to be heavier traffic. It's going to be, the concern is more safety for children in the areas. There's a lot of people walking their dogs, having their families out there. So there's this added component is just concerning, and I think that needs to be addressed. How are they going to address some of these things?
So Anne Marie, is it safe to say then that you agree with the objections that were included in the petition that was circulated?
Correct.
Great, that's okay. So do you have any items that maybe were not included in that petition that you'd like to cover? Because we've already covered pedestrian safety. We've already covered drainage issues. So again, if you have anything new
the
to
concern
add.
too was just capacity for increased, like first responders, for emergency responders, police.
Right, so the impact that additional residents will have on city services.
Correct.
Great. Great, any other items that were not covered in either the petition or maybe something that you submitted in writing?
I did not get anything.
That's it for now.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. We're gonna go to our next name here on our participant list. That was, let's go,
Mr.
I guess we could go to Betty's iPad.
Yeah.
Patrick, let's go to Betty's iPad. Let's unmute Betty's iPad so we can see if she's available or looking to speak this evening. Do you think Patrick has it listed the way I do? Like he's on a participant list? All right, let's see if Patty came in. All right.
Madam Chairman, no comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, Betty. You write down Betty so I know that. Okay, so, all right, Patrick, you can mute out Betty, please, Betty's iPad. Okay, let's go then to, yep, so Brian Greidanus, Greidanus. If we could unmute Brian, we'll see if he'd like to provide testimony this evening. No. Brian, are you there? So Brian, you have been unmuted. Would you like to provide testimony this evening? Are you there, Brian? Brian, you would need to unmute in order for us to hear you. Oh, he has unmuted, so maybe he doesn't have a. All right, Patrick, why don't you go ahead and mute Brian, please? We'll come back to him. Okay, let's go now to Bridget Montijo, Montijo. Bridget, are you there?
Yes.
Would you like to speak to the case this evening?
No, we're one of the families that are represented by Lenny.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, so let's go to Carol Kronforst, Kronfrost. It looks like, hold on, Patrick, did you unmute her? I'm looking now for her. Carol. So the last name is Kronforst, Kronforst, Forst. Carol, if we could unmute Carol Patrick, we could see if she wants to give testimony this evening. Patrick, do you see her name on the list? It's Carol, Carol. Last name starts with K. All right, let's see if she moved to the top now.
Danielle?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion? When we change people's names, maybe we ask them to put like an asterisk if they want to speak. People might not want to speak anymore because they're either repeating or they're represented by the attorney. So if they don't have that asterisk next to their name, we don't need to go through their name. Might just go quicker instead of going through every single person.
All right, we can certainly try that. If you folks would like to put an asterisk by your name, but while you're doing that, we'll continue to call who's coming up here. So Patrick, if you could please unmute Carol, Carol, last name starts with a K, Kronforst. Because her husband, Don, or someone in her household, Don, submitted in writing to us. So we want to see if they would like to give testimony this evening. Okay, so it appears that we're having difficulty unmuting certain people because when they called in by phone, they've pressed *6 to mute themselves. So even though we've turned it off to allow you to speak, you'll need to go onto your phone and press *6 to unmute. So Carol or Don Cronforst, if you're calling in with a phone, if you could press *6 on your phone, that will unmute you. Okay, let's go on then to Kathy Jackson. Patrick, can you try to unmute Kathy? It looks like that may have worked. Let me see. All right, so Kathy, you are unmuted. Would you like to speak to the case this evening?
No, I'm just showing my support for the community.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for calling in this evening. All right, we will go then to, I see an asterisk here, so we'll try this. We'll go to Hillary Feldman. Patrick, if you could unmute Hillary Feldman, please.
Hi.
Hi, Hillary. Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. And if you could just please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Hillary Feldman. I live at 860 Tanglewood Drive in Wheeling.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and mute out so you can speak.
Thank you. I don't want to be repetitive. I just have 3 quick points to make. Regarding flooding, this may be something that you're unaware of, but my back fence is the end of Eleanor Drive. So Eleanor dead ends at my back fence. All the drainage from the Prospect Heights side of the fence backs up. My yard fills up like a bathtub. My neighbors to the north and south yards fill up like a bathtub. One of my neighbors had to install a pump to pump water from the street. Even in light rain, they fill up with water. I don't think any municipality should be considering new development when the existing development is struggling as much as it is. I don't think Wheeling should be considering this land swap, and I don't think Prospect Heights should be considering such a development when the neighboring developments are struggling so much already. Removing open land that absorbs water is just a bad idea. So I wanted to say that. So even though I'm not butted up against that property that's in question for development, we are still going to be very affected by it. The second thing I wanted to say is that open lands are just a good thing. They're good for the environment. They're good for property values. They're just good. And the idea of losing more open land is, to me, pretty devastating. We have so little of it already. So that's a thing. And something that hasn't been brought up at all, which surprises me, is what this development might do to surrounding property values, especially to people whose flooding is going to be affected, and people who are houses that are right around that new development, like, people on the Wheeling side of the fence, like what happens to their property values in the future?
So the petition did identify property values.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I
again,
didn't see that on the petition when I signed it. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So property values on there again, if anyone has data or an expert, who can testify to property values being affected, that's what we need to hear.
Sure. I just feel like a development should add value in some fashion. When you talk about bringing in a development like this, it should add value. It should not be a question about how it adds value. If it's just a development to make a developer money, I don't think that's adding value. So I would like to see that considered.
Great. Any other items, Hillary, that you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Thank you for participating this evening. Okay, let's go next to Mohina Kaur. Oh, sorry. Last name is K-A-U-R.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm assuming do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and if you could just please state your name and address for the record?
It's Mohina Kaur, last name Kaur. I'm at 108 Eleanor in Prospect Heights.
Great, and I just wanted to let you know that we do have the petition that you submitted and also the email that you had submitted. So we have that on file, and all the commissioners have copies of that.
Okay, great. I submitted it on behalf of everybody else. We have been having neighborhood meetings since we found out about this. So I just wanted to let you know that it's not just me, it's on behalf of everybody else. And also, since I submitted that second attachment, which had 225 signatures, I believe, from the online petition, it's now gone up to 291. I just wanted to note that as well. And also, there was something that Nate Weinsma had mentioned during the meeting in June about tying the new development to the identity of Muir Park. And I just wanted to point out that there's already a community that has its identity tied to the park. And I agree with what everyone said so far, particularly what Hillary just mentioned about we don't feel like this is adding value. And I know that you need to consider things on the facts, but you know, there's people who've been living here for 30+ years and their experience should have a little weight. That's all.
Thank you for providing your testimony this evening, Mohina.
Thanks.
Okay, all right, let's go then to John. Did John speak last time?
John spoke last meeting.
Okay, so John, you spoke at the initial meeting we had on the June 25th. So right now we're only taking public comment from those who have not spoke. Let's go to Paul Gebert.
I believe Paul spoke.
Oh, did Paul speak as well?
Yes.
Okay, Paul spoke, you spoke as well at the initial meeting. Right, so should we see if there's anyone else with it? There's no one else with an asterisk.
Okay.
All right, here. All right, let's go.
Where's Michael Lindsay?
Let's go to Michael Linzing. Last name Linzing.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Do you swear that the testimony that you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Linzing, 1017 Drake. And I would just like to reinforce everything that everybody has said. I do have a bit of information here that is factual. The Zoning Board of Appeals of Cook County, I could not find the actual Prospect Heights regulation, but the Zoning Board of Cook County requires that the members be conscientious of cultural conditions in all communities. The board's first concern must be the interest of the public when determining zoning requests, whether it be the applicant's views or that of the public or the objectors. So when you talk about needing facts and you're going to base your decision on facts, that is not what the Cook County Board of Appeals, the Zoning Board of Appeals requires of their members. You have to understand something, that this subdivision was built in the 1950s and the infrastructure was built to support 70 single-family homes on half-acre lots. Now, you are going to tax the entire infrastructure, and I'm talking about electrical, sewer, drainage, everything else that is going to completely tax that infrastructure. So if Lexington wants to double the population of the subdivision, I think it would be incumbent upon them to dredge up the entire subdivision and reinstall modern infrastructure, including electrical supply legs, sewers, everything. And I don't think they're going to spend the money to do that, because it seems to me that Lexington is only concerned about the money. The other thing that I'm a little bit concerned with is that you, Chairman Dash, and Committeeman Mellon, I believe, stated that you worked for D.H. Horton or whatever that, and they are in the exact same business as Lexington. So thereby, if the two of you, either or both of you, ever wanted to advance your careers and you could not do it within D.H. Horton, Lexington would be the most common sense alternative for you to go to and maybe advance your career there. Given that fact, it is basically incumbent upon you to recuse yourself from this vote. So I would like to, have you maybe consider those facts, and it might be wise to abstain because the impartiality would be in question here. You make your livelihood working for the same company or the same industry that Lexington is in, so that may kind of skew things in a fair vote. The other thing that I wanted to mention was you're wanting to, or they are wanting you guys on the board to approve an R1 to R2. There are very specific requirements about spatial allowances. Grass areas in front of the buildings, grass areas on the rear of the building, grass areas between the buildings. I read something that said that the requirement of Prospect Heights is that 40% of the land to be developed must remain undeveloped as open space. So I don't know if I'm exactly correct on that. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to really study in on all the I's and T's and everything. But the special use permit, which is the second request of Lexington, I believe that there is enough comments that have been made that actually endanger the safety, health, and well-being of the community, not improve it like Lexington proposes. Also, somebody had mentioned this earlier, that Lexington is in the business of receiving reports that are advantageous to their case. I believe those reports, based on some of the people that have read the reports, they're not only illegitimate, they may border on obscene. So when you say that you're going to take that as fact, you better really, really do your homework on that, because I think that traffic study, I don't know the company that did it, but they may even be an illegitimate company. I would question the legitimacy of that report. Secondly, the other report by the arborist, I walk through that park every single night, and that entire grove is very, very healthy. I think it is absolutely insane that some arborist comes in there and says 90% of them are dead or dying, 3 trees are healthy. That's preposterous. Another fact is that you cannot make that turn with a construction vehicle that has a lowboy on it, that has a bulldozer on it. They're never going to make that turn from Drake Avenue onto Oak Road. It's impossible. You're not going to do it. The other thing is, let's see. Well, there's a lot of things that I could just repeat, but those seem to be the things that really stand out, and those are things that have not been mentioned that I wanted to bring up, at least as considerations. I would just kind of really end by saying that you board members, if you lived in this community, I think you would have a much greater understanding of how wrong this project is from A to Z. They have no business going over there and trying to put this through. Absolutely ridiculous. And in conjunction, why doesn't Prospect Heights buy that land? That land was for sale for $3 million. And Lexington is going to gobble that up for $1.5 million or something like that. Of course they want to try to shove this through and put this down the throat of the city of Prospect Heights, because they believe they can win this. Well, why doesn't Prospect Heights go and buy that property and respect the elderly of the community, or respect the children of the community, and have a senior center there, or a preschool? make it part of the district. I believe it was at one time. I've been here since 2003, so all I know is about the JHK school or whatever it was called, and it was only open a few years when I was there. But these are kind of the points that I really hope can expand the board's thought and conscience. If something goes wrong, this is a very important vote. And it is a huge detriment to this community. And if that goes in and somebody gets hurt and you were part of voting for that to go, would you really be happy living with yourself voting yes for this thing? This is impossible. This is absolutely crazy. So I'm sorry if I'm a little bit emotional, but I take pride in the fact that this community of Prospect Heights, and I moved here because it was a community that gave you a rural feel, and it gave you a feeling of being a little bit out in the country, a little slower pace, not so much congestion and traffic and this and that. And you go and put that in, you're endangering the health, safety, and well-being of this entire community. So I really, really hope that you guys can see through what Lexington is trying to jam down the throat of this community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, let's go next to Patrick. Let me scroll down here. They are dialed in with the spelling of A-L-I-K-H-A-N. If you could please unmute. It's A-L-I. Okay, look, let me
Hello.
see. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. And if you could just state and spell your name for the record, please, and your
My
address.
full name is Asad Ali Khan, A-S-A-D-A-L-I-K-H-A-N.
Thank you. And your address?
114 Eleanor Drive, Prospect Heights.
Great. And Director Peterson just let us know that he does, that our records do show that you provided a written.
Right. I did write a letter, and my concern is that I support my community, and I think we have valid reason for their concern or for my concern: safety, traffic on the road, storm weather, what do you call stormwater drainage system that is overloaded, as Hillary has mentioned, and water stays on my yard. I am part of the same community as Hillary is on the other side of the fence. So, and also the traffic. One of the gentlemen mentioned about the traffic during construction. So these are valid concerns. So I hope the people of the board really think about this and reject the proposal as laid out.
Thank you for calling in this evening. We appreciate it. Okay, Patrick, let's go.
Yes.
Let's go next to Greg. I'm going to go with Bushberger, B-U-C-H-B-E-R-G-E-R. If you could unmute Greg, please, Patrick. Greg, he just muted him. Greg, if you have if you have audio on your computer and your phone, you'll need to mute one of them. Are you there?
Okay, hold on one second.
He did?
He did.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's still some feedback, Greg.
Okay.
You can only have like one phone or one computer with audio, otherwise there'll be some feedback generated.
Okay. How's that?
Okay, so Greg, are you? Oh, why am I echoing now?
Okay.
Greg, are you
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll have to.
That's a problem. Should we go on to someone else? All right, Chris. Well, it looks like I'm muted.
Greg give?
Patrick, let's try Greg one more time and then we can circle,
back.
we can come back to Greg if we can't get this resolved. Let's go ahead and unmute Greg.
I'm trying to, but he's blocking me. He has to do *6.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Greg, if you could *6 on, oh, okay, he's
Hold
on.
on.
Are you there, Greg?
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's better, Greg.
okay.
So do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great, and if you could just state your name and address for the record, please?
Okay, that's Greg Buchberger, Buchberger, 1100 Honeysuckle Drive in Wheeling.
Great, and I want to let you know, Greg, that we have received we received both emails that you submitted.
Okay.
So we have that entered into the record for this evening.
All right, that's good. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate and echo the concerns of the Drake Terrace neighborhood and regarding the traffic and the water, and our Ridgefield neighborhood regarding the impact on our drainage ponds. In addition to that, we live on the eastern border of the property, so it will directly impact us. And there is one issue about the drainage, which may not have gone noticed, and that is that we've had experience in the past with heavy rains where water accumulates underground and rises high enough eventually to basically potentially overwhelm our sump pump and potentially cause flooding. So the issue of their design with the detention pond, the question becomes, have they considered whether that pond would feed into this layer, since it was a swamp in that area, and make this problem worse? So they need to take a look at that. Another one is that has not been mentioned yet, is the construction pollution that we're going to be dealing with. Be a major concern. The amount of grading that they have is going to be massive. So with the prevailing westerly winds, they really need to consider the amount of dirt and filth that's going to be spreading over the Ridgefield neighborhood. There was an error, and I reported this. This is a small issue, but it's an error in their tree survey. We have a big 40-foot spruce tree on our property, and their survey places it on their property and flags it for removal, which would be our only tree, and it needs to be preserved. So I don't know. I mean, I know that would complicate their plans, but I'm hoping it was just an honest mistake, but that is something that needs to be looked into. I do have a couple of other questions, and these were in my first email, and I do have a question regarding the procedure here. When we submit questions online, can we expect answers to these questions, and how would those answers be communicated? Can anybody answer that on the board?
Director Peterson will comment on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Buchberger, your comments along with everybody has been forwarded to every PZBA commissioner and to the applicant to be addressed. Staff will not be doing individual ones. This will be coming in a response from the applicant. As this is their petition, we facilitated your comments to them to be addressed. So there will be an opportunity for the applicant to address those in his presentation earlier. He did some, and they will have an opportunity to address them this evening or at our next meeting, as long as this public hearing is open. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And another, by way of, since I'm new to this whole thing, I did have a question regarding what is the special use zoning? What is the purpose of a special use in this case?
Yes. Thank you. That's a good question. The city code allows for a special use to designate in any zoning district a planned unit development, which means that they have the ability to seek relief from the strict requirements of the standards of that zoning district. So what was testified to at the June 25th is they will be seeking some relief and variances to some setbacks and some other items, and that is permitted by the planned unit development, but they have to have it created under our special use ordinance. So it's a procedural process to allow them to seek that request.
Okay. All right. And if that affects us, would we get a chance to comment on those?
That's, the exhibits are on the city's webpage. They've been up there since before, a week before the first hearing, and they're still up there. The applicant has been asked to clearly identify them, and they will be providing additional testimony. There will be, and hopefully that will address your concerns. So at this point in time, we're taking all this information down, and it will be cataloged and identified.
Okay, that's appreciated. Two questions in particular that they need to address. I just wanted to mention them here. And that is, will these units be eligible for subsidized housing if they fail to meet their sales targets? And secondly, since we're right on the border of this property, is renting going to be allowed in the bylaws? So it's just specific things. If they can make a note of that, and please respond to that. Thank you very much.
So I would say, Greg, that the proposed covenants for the homeowners association that would be created were submitted by the applicant, and you can find those on the city's website. And that's the document that would dictate whether homeowners in this community would be allowed to rent their units. So that's where you would find that information.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
And if the applicant would like to speak to that this evening, hopefully we have time for them to provide additional information this evening, when otherwise they'll have to do that at the next meeting after we hear all this. So again, I do expect that the applicant has plenty of additional information that they'd like to share with all of us, but again, we can't do that until we finish with our public testimony.
Thank you, Commissioner Dash.
Okay, so if that concludes does that conclude your testimony, Greg? Oh, we muted him. So
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Patrick, let's go to Erwin. Are you there, Erwin?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can. Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and if you just please state your name and address for the record.
First name Irvin, I-R-W-I-N. Last name Singh, S-I-N-G-H. Address is 108 Eleanor Drive, Prospect Heights.
Great. Okay, I'm going to mute out Erwin so you can speak.
Thank you. I did not email a comment earlier, but just wanted to bring a few things which I believe have not been brought up yet. From our home, the access to the park is that's the only access, and now it's going to be blocked, if you will, with this new development. And we walk our dog twice a day, and with this development, what happens with the double the traffic in the neighborhood, and leaves hardly any path for pedestrians to access the path from north side of Prospect Heights, where we live in. And not only that, the park is our access to the trail that runs south of Eleanor, south of Equestrian, connecting Route 83 and Wheeling Road. So, I mean, we take that every day almost, and, you know, with this development, you know, we are concerned with traffic, and would we be able to walk through this private property? Is it going to be okay for residents in our neighborhood to go access the park through that property? And you also mentioned a couple of facts that have not been captured or communicated in any way. One is, you know, in the current form, the amount of water percolation provided by the land as is versus with the new development, how much delta or difference are we going to see in natural percolation of water, rainwater? And second question is, I don't know if this is in any code or EPA, is there a measure of a figure, if you will, of how much carbon CO2 is captured by the number of trees we have, and how much impact, environmental impact? What is the measure that we can see in numbers that you are willing to share, that cutting off all the trees is going to remove a significant portion of carbon recapture out of our green spaces, reduce it, and then what is the impact? We'd like to know that as well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Erwin. Okay, let's next go to, she spoke yet?
No, she has not.
All right, let's, Patrick, go to Michelle. Last name is Knapik. You could unmute. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And if you could please state your name and address for the record?
Michelle Knapik. I live at 11 Drake Terrace.
Great. And Jen, for the record, the last name is spelled Knapik. Okay, I'm going to mute out Michelle so you can provide your testimony.
Okay, my husband and I have lived at the corner of Drake Terrace and Oak for 24 years. And we have 2 children that have grown up on the block. And I leave every morning at the same time. And as I leave and I'm pulling out of my driveway, for the past 24 years, I have seen at least 2 to 3 buses that come down our street and pick up children in this neighborhood since I've lived here. There's always been children in this neighborhood, and they have always gathered at the corner of Drake Terrace and Oak. They don't have sidewalks at Drake Terrace and Oak, and those children stand in the street at the stop sign. Those kids that walk from Pleasant Run, the Forums, from the Wheeling side, and our own neighborhood stand there and pick up the bus. With the construction vehicles that will be moving in and out of all of the area here, those children are at a significant risk because they are being picked up and dropped off at that same corner every day of the school year. They have to stand in the street, and when it snows and the plows haven't come, they stand in the snow, or they stand in the plowed area of the street, which we all know is a significantly smaller street when the plows come down. They are going to be significantly
Are you there, Michelle?
Yes, they are going to have, it is going to be a significant safety risk to those kids. And we will have more and more children that need to be picked up. That I've seen every day of the school year. And our whole school district, School District 23, that is their stop. for all those kids. I see it. I see the older ones walk from Pleasant Run. They walk down that street, down Oak, and I watch them, and they wait for that bus. And those buses and the construction crews coming down, that's going to be a problem. I do concur with what Bill and Hillary and Michael and all of the people that have spoken tonight on what they've given as their testimony. I'm also being represented by Lenny tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Okay, let's next go to Victoria. Has she, did she speak at the first meeting?
No, she did not.
Okay, Patrick, Victoria, are you with us?
I am.
Great, okay, before we get started, I do want to let you know that we have your written testimony here, so thank you for sending that in. If you could just please, do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, and if you could just state your name and please spell your last name for the record and then provide your address.
Okay. Victoria Duzamy, Douzamy. I'm at 1101 North Maple, Prospect Heights.
Great, so I'm going to go ahead and mute out Victoria so you can provide your testimony.
Okay. I would like to echo everyone else's concerns who have already spoken. I agree with everything in the petition, and I just want to speak on behalf of my 3 children who value green space and park space and being able to access that park, which I know that that's a concern that's been mentioned by other people. And I have a baby, and we're always walking on the street, and we really, really, really value the fact that this is a small community and we are able to get to that park and back home and walk on the street for now without too much worry. So that's all I really have to add. I thank everyone else for their testimonies and echo what they've had to say.
Thank you, appreciate your time this evening. Okay, let's go next to, did Linda speak?
Not yet.
Okay, so let's go to Linda Brahmer, Bromer. If you could unmute Linda, please, Patrick. Linda, okay, looks like we're unmuted here. Are you there, Linda?
I'm here.
Great. Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And if you could just please state your name and address for the record, please.
Linda Brahmer, 1300 High Gold Drive in Wheeling.
And Jen, for the record, her last name is spelled B as in boy, Romer.
What was the street name again? High Gold Drive, Highgoal.
All right, Linda, go. You can. Go.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to add in. We do live in the neighborhood in Polo Run subdivision, directly behind the park and down the street from the park. My house is the U-shaped street that runs off of Equestrian Drive, and I have signed the petition. I did send in an email earlier today to you guys. If I bring up something that's already been mentioned, I do apologize. But 2 of the main things that are really going to affect everyone, besides property values, besides air quality during construction and after without the trees and once all of the traffic starts, the schools in the area are already overburdened in so many ways. This will add further to the strain on the bus systems going to and from school, and to the schools that are overcrowded. Traffic in the area, not in my neighborhood so much, but in the neighborhood next to where they're putting the building, will be strained. I don't think anyone's even brought up, besides the residents, the traffic going in and out. You will constantly have deliveries UPS, all the different delivery trucks going in and out, and they drive not very carefully. They do not watch for children when they're driving. So I think that that needs to be taken into effect, as well as bus service and no sidewalks, and it's just not safe for the residents in that area. It will affect many of us in many ways as far as drainage, flooding goes. That's already been spoken about. Another thing that hasn't been brought up will be the effect on the people who live in the lower income areas right around the neighborhood and the park. You know, not everyone has access to big yards, or like I do, or to nice sidewalks like we do. These kids that live in the forums in some of those places, they don't have a place to play, and you're taking that away from them. They will be playing in the streets in their neighborhoods instead of in the big grassy area. And I haven't heard anyone mention that yet tonight. So besides everything that everyone else has said, I think that you really need to take this into consideration and vote no for this property. I think Lexington is going to be in and out. They're going to build the homes. They're not going to be worried about it later on. We're the ones who are going to have to deal with the situation, with possible renters, bringing down property values in many different ways. And I just think overall, Prospect Heights is making a mistake if they vote yes for this. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Linda. All right, let's look here. Yeah, so we had asked earlier on if you were interested in speaking this evening, if you could put an asterisk in your name that's being displayed here through the Zoom software. So I'm looking here. We've covered so far everyone who's had a star or an asterisk, excuse me, by their name. Let me continue scrolling down. Actually, Chris, let's do.
Yeah, he's got it written too.
Perfect. All right. So Patrick, if we could unmute Chris, the last name is B as in boy, I-A-L-A-S. He's a little bit further down in the list. So it's Chris, last name is B-I-A-L-A-S. So Chris, if Patrick may have already tried to unmute you, if you're calling in by phone, if you could press star, is it star six?
Star six.
Star six. Okay, I think we may have you now. All right, Chris, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great, and if you could just, we do want to let you know that we have entered your written comments that the city received into the public record. So we have those. If you could state your name, please, and spell your last name and your address for the record.
My name is Chris Bialas, B-I-A-L-A-S, and I live at 1105 Oak Avenue.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to mute out Chris so you can go ahead and give your testimony.
Okay. So according to the USGS website, an average household daily usage of water is 80 gallons a day. If you multiply that by 69 units, that's over 5,500 gallons a day of water being used. I'm also reading directly from the USGS.gov website with an increased pumping in the immediate area, what it could do. So I'm reading straight from the website. A third major reason why rural wells go dry is the installation of large capacity wells for municipal, industrial, or agricultural purposes adjacent to residential areas. The increased withdrawal may cause large, widespread cones of depression that intersect one another and cause general water level declines that affect nearby domestic wells. And if my house runs out of water, nobody would want to even purchase it or buy it or anything. So I'm very concerned about that large amount of water being pulled out of one well in one area with the neighboring households only pulling 80. So and I also agree with all the other, the petition and everybody else's testimony.
Well, thank you, Chris. And yeah, as part of the concerns that were stated in the petition, we are aware that we'll be looking for additional information as to how the community well that's being proposed may or may not impact the existing wells. We would be looking for that information from the applicant. So thank you for speaking this evening. All right, let's see who, I'm going to continue to scroll down to see who may else want to speak.
I'd like to speak. I've got some expert testimony.
Okay, let me figure out who is, so you're obviously unmuted, so let me see if I can find you here. Oh, so your phone number is 847-971-1370?
That's right, yes.
Okay, if you could, do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and if you could please state and spell your name for the record, please, and provide your address?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being on the board.
Sir, before you provide testimony, I need you to state
Sure.
your name and spell it,
All right.
please, and your address.
Yes. My name's Lorne Bendel, B-E-N-D-E-L. My address is...
I'm sorry.
My address is... Spell the first name, Lorne. First name, Lorne, is L-O-R-N-E-Y. Last name, Bendel, B-E-N-D-E-L. I'm at 1104 Oak, across the Kites.
Great, thank you so much. I apologize, sometimes it's hard to hear. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute out, sir, so you can provide your testimony.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have expert testimony from the builder's plans, Hager Engineering. If you can go to Exhibit 8, page 6 at the bottom, it regards the 8-inch by 200-foot well. Hager Engineering has questions about the adequacy of the well, for like the supply was for 40 gallons per minute. 40 gallons per minute will take care of 8 households, approximately 5 gallons per minute per household. On that page 6 of Exhibit 8, the Hager Engineering also questions the impacts on nearby private wells. So these are engineers, and this is right in the files that you should have. There's thousands of pages, so I doubt if everyone could read every page. Again, the U.S. Geology Report 2019 reports the main reason for a well to go dry is the increased use in industrial wells, and they have both there. If you go to Exhibit 16, page 10 at the bottom, there's table number 2. Table number 2 indicates the in and out of the vehicles. Now it says on your townhouses, and it has parentheses, 69 units. The in and out totals of a weekday morning in the peak hour are 34. That makes 26 out and 8 in. The figures for weekday evening are 26 in and 16 out, a total of 42. somehow 8 people are leaving more a day than are going in. And with those totals, which should be 76, but at that same number 2 table, the daily two-way traffic in and out. In are 240, out are 240, with a total of 480 vehicles. Somehow these figures are intentionally done or mistakenly done. I believe these studies are done on 13 units, and that's why you have the in and out totals of each day so small, and that the total impact is 480 vehicles, which is on 69 unit study.
So we can let the traffic consultant speak to that, but I think if I can connect the dots here. So the numbers in that chart for weekday morning is just 1 hour of the 24-hour day. So that's just the 1 hour that the traffic consultant has identified as being the peak time in the morning. And then the other numbers there, that total of 42 trips, again, that's just a 1 hour period in the evening that they've identified as being the peak. And that's why the 34 plus the 42 don't equal the 480, because the 480 accounts for all of the trips that would be realized, that would be projected for this community, not just 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. So, and again,
all right. So at least you know that those 480 vehicles are there, not just the totals of a smaller amount. I'm a retired Chicago policeman, and I know that increased traffic is going to endanger the children. Less traffic, less danger. This is definitely going to be more traffic. I've emailed like about everyone that I could possibly think of, and I don't know why the Environmental Protection Agency is not involved in this. This impact on this community could be devastating. If our wells go dry, or how many wells go dry, it might not just be this community. There's 3,000 wells in Prospect Heights. I don't know if they have to put up a bond, but I'd say if 100 houses are gone without water, they're going to be uninhabitable. So is the builder going to pay for that? And I wanted to thank all of you to begin with for just being on the board. I think that's about all I have.
okay, thank you for calling in this evening. And as I think I've mentioned a few times, we'll certainly be looking to the applicant to provide information on how the proposed community well, what impact that may have on the existing well. So we're certainly aware of that concern. Okay, so let me continue to scroll to see if there's anyone else who, we got some new ones. Let me see here.
M. Meyer
We did Hillary Irwin.
or MJ.
Yeah, Mr. Okay. He hasn't spoke yet, correct?
No.
Okay, so Patrick, let's try to unmute MJ Meyer.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, my name is Mary Jean.
Mary Jean, do you have 2 forms of audio on your end, either a computer and a phone? Because there's a little bit of a feedback.
Okay.
You'll need to turn one of them off.
Okay. There we go. Ready?
Certainly. And before you get started, I want to let you know that we do have the written testimony that you submitted to the city. So we all have that, and it's been entered into the public record. So
Okay.
you go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and then you can give your testimony this evening.
My name is Mary Jean Meyer, M-E-I-E-R. My address is 1101 Oak. And I was looking over some of Lexington's documents that they submitted, and on their Exhibit 8, it was the response letter. On page 7, they refer to an overall TIF, and I would like somebody to explain what that is to me. And I'd like to know when the developed property will start paying into the taxing bodies for police, fire, school district, library, Wheeling Township, Cook County. We all pay property tax. That property has not paid any property tax for maybe 20 years or since the beginning of time because it was school district. I want to know when they're going to start paying into the system if this project goes through that I don't want to go through.
Okay, thank you. So I would say that we've made a note in regards to the TIF. And I believe the applicant will be speaking to the TIF in their response, which again won't take place until we complete the public testimony. So we will, we have noted that. So thank you. Okay, so let me see if there's any other names here that have an asterisk.
I had another question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were done. I apologize, ma'am. Continue.
Also, on Exhibit 15-01, it was the declaration for the reserve at Muir Park Townhomes. On page 8, it talks about the maintenance of the shared detention pond and the cul-de-sac parking. And I want to know what happens when that homeowners association for the development decides that they don't want to maintain the pond that's located on Park District property and the parking lot that's also located on Park District property. What happens when they decide that, or they decide they don't want non-residents walking or driving on their private property to get to our public park? They can cut us off at any time. It's private property. They have a private snowplow doing their streets, not city plowing. I know that's going to be private property. What happens when they cut us off? We've got zero access to the park, and they now have a private park. Oh, no wonder it's called Reserves at Muir Park. Now I get it. Can someone explain what happens?
Just go, can you go?
Right here, go ahead.
Ms. Meyer, this is Director Peterson. We've got these questions. They will be referred to as we go through, and to get through it time-wise, if you could go through all of your comments, because these are very good questions and they will be addressed. But in terms of the maintenance and long-term maintenance, that has to be addressed by the developer or by the applicant. And they do have a declarations, and they can address how this is going to go forward. You've got questions about traffic. And then there's a couple you have for me that we will get to as you get through your questions.
Okay, thank you.
To continue,
Go ahead.
if you want to continue stating them, or if you just, because the council, the PZBA and the applicant have your questions, they have been distributed to them. If you'd like to reiterate them now and wait for the answers, or if you'd just like to understand that we have them and they will be addressed.
Okay.
We picked up. Okay, thank you. So,
Okay, let's look to see who else may be wanting to speak. I'm scrolling our attendees list to look for additional asterisks by people's names. All right, so let's see, I'll scroll back to the top.
Where's the money?
Wait, okay, so I don't see any asterisks at this point. That doesn't mean we won't make sure everyone who needs to speak does. I guess I'd like to ask Lenny Asaro, being that you're counsel for the neighbors, do you have anything that you'd like to add this evening?
Thank you, Chairwoman Dash. I actually came prepared with a questions based on the documents that were uploaded to the city's website. Prior to this meeting, I just got retained. Prior to this meeting, I did go onto the village's website so that I could review the meeting from June 25th, so that I could get up to speed as to what was presented. And when you opened up this meeting and you had indicated that this was, that we were resuming from the last meeting, it kind of took me a little off guard, because when I looked at what was on YouTube, there is nothing that was uploaded from the prior meeting. The only thing that was uploaded was the cannabis dispensary hearing. So the reason why obviously I wanted to review that is so that I could be prepared, and I didn't want to go over territory if it was already covered. But I have questions that I came prepared to ask the applicant, but I know your procedures. I don't know if that period of time is still open, considering, you know, we're in the public comment section. So I wanted to just alert you to that and defer to you as to how we might handle that.
Okay, so I guess we'll need to find out, because I do know we record all of these meetings. I know that we have a YouTube channel, and maybe, so we'll just need to figure out how or when that recording will be available. But it's certainly our intention to make that available.
I understand.
So let me find out from.
We'll have to review
Yeah.
that. We'll have to investigate.
Right, we'll
get
have to
that out
figure,
there.
yeah, we'll have to figure out
Okay.
how to make that available, as you're implying that it's not currently available. So
And it is not from, that the video from this, the public hearing. Hi, this is Director Peterson.
Hi, Director Peterson. Good evening.
You are correct that the first part of that meeting is not online. The meeting was still open, and we're moving forward with getting it on with this. So you are correct that the first part of this hearing is not on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
okay, so I guess what I'd like to say, so Lenny, if you came prepared with questions, obviously the applicant is online with us this evening. So I would say, why don't you present your questions, and then I will ask if there's any additional public testimony, and if there's not, then we'll just go ahead and turn it back to the applicant so they can start addressing the concerns that we've heard this evening and that they've received in writing. Because again, I think it's important for them to have a chance to respond, but procedurally we can't allow them to do that until we've heard all of the public testimony. So why don't you go ahead with your list? You will, do you swear, Lenny, that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I would, but I'm not testifying.
Okay.
So you're not speaking on the public record?
Yeah, I'm not testifying. I'm not providing evidence and testimony. I'm an advocate. I'm an attorney for the objectors. And so what my role is to, at least at this point, I have questions that I would like to ask of the applicant with respect to their application. So I typically, as an attorney, I don't testify as a witness.
Okay, then unless our city attorney, who he's on the line.
Yes, hi Lenny, it's Jim Hess, the city attorney.
Hey, Jim, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. If you are simply asking questions to be read into the record, we don't need to swear you in as you wouldn't be providing testimony. However, if there are any statements or if you're making any representations on behalf of your clients, we'd ask that you do swear in. But if you're just adding questions to the record, we don't need to swear you in as you're not adding testimony. However, if there's any statements or anything that you're asking that be considered in the record as factual basis, we need you to swear in.
Okay.
So if you were just reading questions in the record, Chairman Dash, you do not need to swear him in. However, if there's any factual notations you're making or anything you'd like to be considered part of the record that is not question-based, we'd ask that you be sworn in. So if you just indicate to the chairman or just let the chairman know that you are not planning on making any factual statements, but only questions, then you can proceed without swearing in.
At this time, that's my only plan is to actually, I just want to be clear. I have questions. I have documents that I'm asking questions about that were submitted, the exhibits. So I just want to be clear. Are you asking me to just go through and read my list of questions, or are we going to do this as a normal cross-examination where I ask a question of the applicant and then the applicant responds and I move on to my next question and so on and so forth?
No, the cross-examination happens via the public hearing and public testimony. You are able to cross-examine the applicant via asking questions and providing your own testimony that would either add to the record or potentially contradict what has been presented by the applicant, and the applicant would then address that. So it's not a typical cross-examination as in a courtroom setting.
So Lenny, I would suggest that you read your questions and then we will, the applicant then can answer those questions when we turn it over back to them.
Okay. I've never done that before. I've never done it this way before. And so I understand these are your procedures, so I have to comply with them. I can tell you that it's going to be a fairly, it's not going to be the smoothest process. And if that's what you want me to do, I'm happy to comply. Then, because when I ask questions, and if I can't ask a follow-up question to a question, it sort of it curtails our ability to be able to cross-examine the witnesses for the applicant or the applicant, whoever is presenting evidence for the applicant. I assume that they have expert witnesses. For example, the traffic consultant, if they have anybody who has been sworn in and testified, again, I don't know who that is. So,
yeah, Lenny, this is Director Peterson.
Yeah.
I know you've indicated that you're requesting the continuance of this hearing. Would it be, would you be open to that? We have seen that a couple more residents do want to speak.
Sure.
Would you be open to allowing them to speak, allowing the applicant to rebut, and then we're going to be coming back to this anyway. And Jim, is that procedurally correct? Can we do that way? Jim, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat that?
Basically, I asked him, would he be open to allowing, there's a couple more residents that would like to speak to the matter. They've raised their hand and added a comment. And then we have the applicant then start to provide testimony, their submittal and rebuttal to these. And then because we're continuing this, we can't take action based on his request tonight, then have Lenny do the cross-examination at the next hearing. I'm just procedurally trying to figure out if that's a smoother way to do this.
Madam Chairman, go ahead, Mr. Huss.
let's proceed with the remainder of the public comment, and we will address, see what time it is when the public comment commences or finishes before Mr. Asaro provides his questions.
Let's listen to Patrick. Why don't you unmute, please? Is it Ray's iPad?
Yeah, Ray's iPad.
Right.
How do we get on?
Do they want to speak?
Excuse me.
It's
Yeah,
virtual.
go ahead, go ahead.
Madam Chairman?
All right, Patrick, you can unmute the applicant. Go ahead, please.
That's Lexington Homes.
Yes.
You could just, maybe you could just give us a wave, guys. Sorry, because when you're muted, we can't. Right, perfect. All right, so we've unmuted the applicant.
Madam Chairman, my name's Tom Burney. I'm the attorney for Lexington Homes. With respect to Mr. Asaro's request, as you and your fellow member, Mr. Mellon, did in terms of identifying 16 questions, very pertinent questions, we would ask that Mr. Asaro identify what his questions are so that we can, in a organized fashion, have the appropriate witness to answer the questions that Mr. Asaro has. He may not also have the benefit of the questions that the two of you have presented to us. We will then have the appropriate witness available to answer those questions. And if Mr. Asaro has a follow-up question to that, he can do that. That would be consistent with the Claren decision in terms of affording the gentleman all of his due process rights. But the way that we're heading now, Mr. Asaro can sit out his questions and we will not have the right witness. It would be very disorganized. So I would ask the chair to rule that Mr. Asaro identify what his questions are, and we will then make available the appropriate witness to answer the question. And as I said, if he has any follow-up to, he's welcome to follow up with questions. Thank you.
So Chairman Dash, may I respond briefly?
Certainly.
Sure. Thank you, Council. First of all, I have no intention of sitting on my questions whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, I would like the questions to be directed and presented to whatever witness that you have that can answer them, that can address the subject matter. So I'm not looking to surprise you in any way, shape, or form. What I'm happy to do is I'm happy to write out all of my questions and send them to you. And they can correlate to an exhibit, and you can have everything. I've got nothing to hide. And then that way you have an opportunity to study them, and you can have whoever you want to respond to them, and you can have everything right there. And I agree with you. I just didn't want to take up, everybody's time here. I don't want to try to do something that would be unwieldy. So I'm happy to do it however you want to do it. And I think perhaps putting it all in writing and sending it to you might be the most efficient way if that's what you would like. Otherwise, I can certainly go through the documents and cite the lines that I'm referring to in a document and then ask the question that way, which I don't think would be productive or a good use of anybody's time.
Yeah, I agree, Lenny. If you could, and maybe we'll see if Lex, the applicant, agrees, but I do think that you should submit your questions in writing.
That's fine.
So then staff has them. Then the commissioners on this board will also have the questions that you've asked. And then when we have our next meeting, because as we know, we will be continuing the case again, then at that meeting, the applicant can provide responses from their team or someone from their team of consultants.
Madam Chairman,
I thank you for that, and I didn't mean to disrupt anybody or to do anything out of order. I was referring to the rules and procedures of the PZAB, which states what the procedures were, and it did say that there's a point where questions can be asked. So I was only following that procedure, Chairwoman Dash. But thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, might we just inquire from Mr. Asaro, when could he expect to provide? And I agree with you to present them to the director. When could we expect you to send those questions to the director so that he could circulate them and perhaps he'd like to put them on the web?
Sure, absolutely. Can you give me until Monday to do it?
Yes, sir.
Say close of business Tuesday?
That's fine.
Yeah,
Just-
no.
but
Yeah.
Well, only because,
Sorrow, I would tell you that the next meeting that we plan to have for this, we already have a regularly scheduled meeting coming up. So you can certainly have some days next week to get those questions in. We're not going to schedule the meeting in close proximity that the applicant won't have a chance to respond properly.
okay.
So is that like next Thursday, Your Honor, Madam Chairman?
I mean,
That's more than enough time for me.
Perfect.
yeah, all right. So we'll expect to get those comments in by
Questions by the.
end of business next
16th.
Thursday.
And I'll email them to Director Peterson.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
and then he'll circulate them to the applicants and to the commissioners on this board.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Look forward to seeing those. So I think, yeah, we're gonna, I think the only remaining testimony from the public was gonna be from Ray's iPad. So Patrick, if you could try to unmute Ray. Let's see if we can find him.
Am I unmuted?
Oh, I hear you, Ray.
Okay.
Okay, so Ray, do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and if you could just please state and spell your name for the record and your
Sure.
address.
My name is Ray India, India, and my address is 1015 Drake Avenue.
Great, so I'm gonna mute out Ray so you can go ahead and give your testimony.
Okay. Mostly what I'm going to say is, and in a form of a question as well, is I just had an opportunity, of course, to get online, and I wanted to find out exactly when the vote is going to be taken, and will I have an opportunity at that point to, present additional questions? Because I don't have very.
Dinah, it's really, I'll say.
Hello? I was just wondering.
Yeah, Ray, yeah, we can hear you, Ray. Keep going.
Okay, I was just wondering if will I have the next meeting that you're going to be taking, that you're going to be conducting, will I have an opportunity at that point to address some additional things that I haven't really sorted out properly yet?
So Ray, once we wrap up the public comments today, the only other public testimony we'll take would have to be specific to new information, new testimony, new documents that the applicant provides after our first round of public testimony has been taken. So if they present an exhibit or present information on a topic that hasn't been raised at this point, or new information, then the public would have an opportunity to provide comment on that new information. And Jim, Attorney Hess, if you agree or disagree with me, feel free to chime in. But that's what I understand from.
If tonight, if we finish tonight, if there is an agreement that the public hearing or public comment closes at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, that is the case that the only opportunity for additional comment would be to any new information, new testimony, new evidence that is provided by the applicant or responded to in response to questions that were provided by the public. And we would be taking Attorney Asaro's questions into the record, stipulate that those are part of the public comment prior to them closing. He has indicated on the record that he is submitting those questions, and those questions can be adopted into the record prior to the public comment closing. So as long as the public comment closes, all future public comment would need to be based on new information and new testimony, new documents, or any comments or evidence presented by the applicant at the next resumed hearing.
So Ray, I know that's a lengthy response, Ray. So I would say, you know, you're certainly welcome this evening to say that you concur with the other testimony that's been given this evening. You can say that you concur with the bullet points in the petition that was circulated.
Well, what I concur with the comments that were made by my neighbors about the, nay response to this new place that they're trying to put up.
Okay, so your issue would be the branding of the community, and you're opposed to them using Muir Park in the branding.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And also them putting that unit up, because I'm really concerned about, the water and all that stuff that was brought up. Traffic, parking, flooding, and everything.
Perfect, right. Residents, access, pedestrian safety, traffic, tree removal, drainage, water supply, impact on the park space, property values, and zoning.
Correct. And the last thing that I would ask is that once this is all gone through, is there another vote to this?
So the Planning and Zoning Board is a recommending body. So after we've made a recommendation, then it goes to City Council for a first reading. And the date of that meeting is a function of when our board makes our recommendation. So this, again, we are just a recommending body. So the vote or the recommendation that we make then goes on to City Council.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So Ray, does that wrap up what you'd like to say?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. So we can mute Ray out then, Patrick. And again, I don't, Patrick, is there anyone else who put their hand up per se that is looking to speak? Because I don't see any notes from you, and I don't think I see any.
No, I don't have anyone now.
Okay, so should we unmute just to see if anyone says anything or no? Yeah, okay, so again, so I think we've. Oh, G6. Let's Patrick, can you please unmute G6? Everybody's on the train now, that's great. Patrick, so G6, if you're on the line, okay, perfect.
I believe John Albrecht would like to speak. He's a neighbor of mine. I live in the Pleasant Run condominiums.
So John spoke at the June 25th meeting, so he's already provided testimony in that venue.
Okay, I'll wait for a recording of that then. Thank you.
Okay, so if anyone else wants to speak, maybe you could use the software, the tool to put your hand up, and we can see if anyone else pops up. Otherwise, I would really like to, again, anyone is welcome to speak, but I really would like to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to the questions that we've raised and that they've heard from the public this evening. So it doesn't look like, I'm scrolling through here, it doesn't look like I see any additional hands up. So Patrick, if you could be so kind as to unmute the Lexington Homes applicant group, then we can hear from them. Okay, there they are. So I'll just swear all of you, we already swore them in, right? We already swore, I'm assuming it's the same team that you had at our June 25th meeting, correct?
It is Chairman Dash. We also have remotely Jeremy Lynn, a water consultant, and Louie Abuna from the very well-respected traffic engineering firm of KLOA.
Okay, so I believe I swore you guys in last time. Maybe if your consultants speak, I can swear them in separately then, I guess.
I think Mr. Lynn might have been the only individual who was not sworn in the last time. And
Okay.
I'm here today with Nate Weinsma from Lexington Homes, Sharon Dixon from the Dixon Design Studio, and Todd Schaefer from Hager Engineering, and I am Tom Burney.
Okay, so I will open up the floor to you folks to provide your feedback, and I'm going to go ahead and read out.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to do most of the talking with Todd Schaefer, who's going to talk about the engineering. Nate will pipe in when I've missed something. First of all, I'd like to thank you and all the Plan Commission members for the time and service that you're offering here. If the gentleman who was critical about two very well-respected individuals who know construction and building about their participation, I wish he would read the questions that each of you posed to us, which we are poised to answer right now. The questions make it clear that you have no bias or prejudice in this matter, and that you are simply bringing your knowledge to bear, which many communities do not have on a plan commission or a city council or a village board. And we thank you for your service, and we know that you're going to decide this based on the law, based on the standards that the city has set forth, based on evidence and facts and not fears. With that, I would like to say that we have added a supplemental set of exhibits. We've numbered the pages of the PowerPoint, and they run from pages 33 to 56. Those PowerPoint slides are intended to address many of the 32 questions that were posed to us and that we've prepared to respond to in this presentation tonight. For purposes of, instead of going in a serial fashion with Ms. Dash's questions 1 through 16 and Mr. Mellon's questions 1 through 16, I'm going to identify the question and who asked the question based on some generic subjects, which include, there's several site plan questions. Then there are engineering storm management questions. There's traffic and parking and general civil engineering. There's questions about backup SSAs and HOAs. There are some questions to the city. And then there are a few things that came tonight that we're prepared to address. With respect to the slides that we've identified as the supplemental exhibits, we'd ask that they be included on the exhibits list. And I believe that the appropriate exhibit number is exhibit 25, but perhaps it belongs on as SE9. I'll leave it to the director to decide where this goes, but these slides would be a group exhibit, and for no better reason, we'll just call them SE9, supplemental exhibits number 9. Starting off with the site plan questions, Ms. Dash has a question about a connection to the existing path. It's question 11 at Pleasant Run Park. And we'd ask you to go to slide 40, which indicates that we are providing we will provide a path around the entire pond for the benefit of the owners who live there. And that's shown clearly in a yellow line on slide 40. And I might just divert a second, because there was a resident who expressed concern that this community could ban residents in Prospect Heights from accessing the park. The park district and this landowner figured that out a long time ago. There is an easement of access running across this land. It's a perpetual easement, just like Gigi, the owner of this land right now, cannot ban residents from crossing her land to access the park. That is going to be something that's in perpetuity. I'll talk later about the controls that this plan development offers, that plan development device that we're seeking here in terms of covenants that are binding on all of the owners of the property with respect to the maintenance of the detention and the parking lot, and a backup SSA, which we have, and it's been suggested in the questions, which we have absolutely no objection to. It's a terrific vehicle which allows the city, if the homeowners association fails to do what it's obligated to do, to tax that area, to go in and fix it, tax that area and collect the money. So both of you, based on your great experience in land development, know that the backup SSA is a way to protect the community and be sure that what commitments have been made are going to be followed in perpetuity. With respect to paragraph or question 12 in Ms. Dash's question, and this is a question that appears several times in Mr. Mellon's questions. It concerns what you call variations, I call departures when we're talking about it in a plan development. And what we have are only 2 departures from the underlying regulations. And it's been expressed that we have not stated that clear enough, and if perhaps one or both of you or other members of the Plan Commission could convey how they would like to see this expressed to the director, we will get you the appropriate slide to satisfy your concern. There is a 2-foot departure in the setback between balconies that we are requesting. The city's regulations allow a 4-foot encroachment for a balcony. We believe that a better product is to provide an additional foot on each end of the, or on the depth of the balcony to give people more room, more space, more livable area there. So we are asking for a 2-foot departure there. Second of all, there is a 5-foot 7-inch departure on the buildings, and these would be buildings 7 and 8, which is on the south end of the development, which is against the Pleasant Run Drive parking lot. We're asking for a departure there. We're asking for a smaller departure in buildings 4, 5, and 6 of, is it 0.7 feet? Yes, it is. It's 0.7 feet with respect to the side yard variation or departure. Those are the only departures we're asking for. With respect to the departure on the balconies, that occurs in 6 pairs of buildings and 12 buildings altogether. You asked in question 13 about sidewalks and a site plan and why isn't a sidewalk being proposed on both sides of Oak Circle and Oak Court. And we've heard repeatedly from the neighbors that there are no sidewalks in the neighborhood. These sidewalks would not serve anything. So we question the benefit to providing sidewalks on that. You asked in question 14, I'd like to see an open space exhibit for this proposed development. And we ask you to turn to slides 42 and 43, which show the open space that is developed or that is proposed on the ground for the 69 unit plan and for the 61 unit plan. We believe that it's a correct interpretation that by submitting the parkland as part of this plan development, that the city is within its rights to consider the parkland as part of the open space in this development. What we have done is to basically integrate these 2 developments, and we think that it's a proper interpretation that we don't have a 39.2% open space, but instead we have closer to 64%. With respect to the 61 unit plan, again, we are showing the open space that's in a lighter shade of green, and we're showing 47.3% open space, which is in excess of the 40% requirement. Mr. Mellon, in questions with respect to site plan, in question 1, notes that we are upzoning from R1 to R2. In talking, in reviewing your ordinance, we believe that an R2 zoning is the most appropriate zoning in this community to accommodate a townhome development. And that is why we proposed it. And there are specific standards in the R2 with respect to the minimum square feet per building or per unit. It's 3,000 square feet. We're in the 3,700 square foot range. So we're below the densities that are permitted as a matter of right. We see this ground as a transitional piece with the apartments, condos on one side. We don't think it's an appropriate place for single family homes. And we believe that given the lack of real other opportunities in the community for a diverse housing stock, that this is an appropriate place for a townhouse development, and R2 is the appropriate zoning. Again, Mr. Mellon points out that our variances are unclear and confused. I hope I've helped to straighten it out, but I would appreciate it if I have not, that we will take another stab at it. The site plan, you ask about specific application details, about minimum lot area. The applicant table describes the lot area for the entirety of the project. I've addressed this. It's my interpretation that we can include the entirety of the park in terms of computing open space. And you can check with you can consult with your director as to whether my interpretation is correct or not. Paragraph 40, I'm sorry, table 40 addresses that. The question 3 from Mr. Mellon is the definition of the front, sides, and rears for each of the zoning lots. And this is a fundamental question that almost every community has, that their zoning ordinances have not adapted to the condo style townhouse development that we see occurring all throughout the Chicago metropolitan area and across the country. And my interpretation, and I believe it's supported by the ordinance, is that that you look at the entire lot when you are looking for side yards, front yards, and rear yards. And thus, based on the definition contained in your ordinance, the front yard is on the north and the rear yard is on the adjacent to Mere Park, with the side yards, of course, being adjacent to the two wheeling developments to the east and the west. And that the bulk requirements, the setbacks, are measured from those lines and not from the building lines set forth in these footprints that are shown on the plan, the building footprints. So that again is a matter of interpretation that you, Mr. Mellon, will, and other members of the Plan Commission will want to consult with the director about. You also ask, Mr. Mellon, about whether you were correct above. It's not that I disagree with you, it's a matter of interpretation, and that's how I see adapting this form of townhome development to the ordinances that were adapted in a day gone by. With respect to 5, we use, again, slides 42 and 43 demonstrate where the open space is, and that's, we believe that we satisfy that. Question 7 has to do with the building height. And I've addressed this before. We are entitled to a 4-foot encroachment for this deck. We're asking for an additional foot on each deck. Therefore, we're asking for a 2-foot departure from the standard, which the plan development allows us to do, or not, it allows the city to approve. It allows us to request it, but it's up to you whether you grant it or not. Question 8, in terms of the buildings along the periphery, again, this has to do with a matter of interpretation that you are looking at the entire lot that the ground is on and the buildings are on, and not the individual building pads. Question 12, in terms of the small departure to the requirement for common open space, that was a ministerial error. It isn't 39.8%. It's in excess of 64% because of what we believe to be a correct interpretation of including the park. With respect to the character and quality of the open space that you inquire about in paragraph 13, you asked too about a circular pathway, and I hope that we have gone a step further than what you had envisioned in terms of providing the circular path around the pond and the park.
Slide 40.
And that again is slide 40. You ask, how are we supposed to vote on both plans? Each plan should have its own debate on the details. We believe that the underlying zoning principles in terms of if you agree that this is a transitional piece of land, if you agree that a diverse form of housing is welcome in this community, if you agree that there aren't many other locations, if any, in the city to which you could develop this, if you believe that there should be investment opportunity, or that you want to attract new investment into the community, whether it's the 69 unit plan or the 61 unit plan, I believe that we have satisfied the standards. We will acknowledge to you, however, that we have not gotten into the preliminary engineering with the 61 unit plan, and it's our intent between now and the next meeting in sufficient time for you to review it, to provide you with some preliminary engineering on some basic issues with respect to stormwater management. I'll have Todd address if I've forgotten anything else. I'm gonna quit talking for a few minutes, and I'm gonna let Todd talk about the storm management questions, because there are many of those questions in the questions you posed to us. And I'm gonna also have him talk about, what else? Traffic? Good.
General statements on the community well.
Okay, please go. Yes, on the well, please go.
All right, good evening. My name is Todd Schaefer with Hager Engineering, 100 East State Parkway, Schaumburg, Illinois. I was sworn in at the last meeting. There's been a lot of questions regarding stormwater, both from the Plan Commission members as well as the adjacent residents. So one of the questions is, are we designing a site such that we are not going to adversely impact the adjacent properties and maintain the current overflow routes? So I ask if you can go to slide 34, please. This is a general overview of the existing conditions for the school site as well as the Muir Park. What you see in blue on both parcels is what we characterize as either a detention. Detention pond exists on the existing school site south of the connecting bike path or multi-use path between the Wheeling Park District. That is a detention pond that is shared between the Wheeling Park District and Prospect Heights Park District that was permitted, I believe it was in the late 80s. And there's a separate set of plans that was prepared on behalf of those agencies. There is a 8-inch storm sewer grouted inside a 12-inch pipe that goes underneath the path that drains north into the school site. From there, water sits into a little depressional area because there is what we characterize as a drain tile system that was old, that went to the north, that is no longer active. So what happens is water ponds up in those low areas and drains to an existing 12-inch storm sewer pipe in the Ridgefield subdivision to the east. That is a small diameter rear yard storm sewer that conveys water to the east into the remaining storm sewer system for that subdivision. The 36-inch pipe that has been commented on by the adjacent residents is actually a pipe that was installed by Wheeling to convey water from the village of Wheeling to the west of our site. It runs under the Prospect Heights Park District and then continues easterly to the existing Ridgefield Pond. And that is the same pond that the 12-inch pipe goes to on the southeast quad of the Ridgefield South subdivision. As you can see on this exhibit, there is also a storm sewer that drains the parking lot and the southwest quad of the school site that goes directly into that 36-inch sewer. So currently, drainage from the site goes into the existing 12-inch and the existing 36-inch, and all of that water currently goes to the existing subdivision to the east. Before that subdivision was built, all of the water drained northeasterly towards Hinch Road and towards the Echo Lake that's on the north side of the road. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is just a little bit of an overview that shows from our drainage analysis, our preliminary drainage analysis, that we did our depressional storage calculations based on MWRD methodology as well as Prospect Heights, utilizing recently adopted Bulletin 70 rainfalls, which is the higher rainfall events that have been adopted in the state of Illinois, or the majority of the state of Illinois, due to changing climates, etc. And on this, I just want to bring your attention to the peak discharges that go to the 12-inch pipe and the 36-inch pipe from our site. The 12-inch pipe is approximately 20 CFS, cubic feet per second, and the 36-inch pipe is just under 24 CFS. So if you could go to the next slide. This is an overview of the proposed conditions. And what it's basically showing is that we are maintaining the existing 36-inch sewer that is there. We're not constructing a new sewer from our site to the existing Ridgefield Pond. It currently already exists, and it currently is already conveying water from our site. We are proposing to take the existing pond that is on the Park District site that stores water for both part of the Wheeling Park District and part of the Prospect Heights Park District, and we are consolidating that into one overall stormwater management basin. We are regrading the site to be able to accommodate the proposed development, but also to provide stormwater management in accordance with new current ordinances. From this project, basically we are maintaining some existing drainage against our easterly property line that will continue to go directly into the 12-inch storm sewer pipe. From there, we have a pond in the central portion on the east property line where water will go through a restrictor. And because of updated MWRD ordinances and the shallowness of the existing 36-inch sewer, we are proposing a pump downstream of the restrictor. That stormwater pump, the amount of water that goes to that stormwater pump is controlled by the restrictor upstream. So the restrictor is going to slow down the water to go downstream. If you can go to the next slide, there's a little bit of an enlarged view of what I'm going to talk about next. So in this case, what's happening here is we are proposing to take our restricted release rate and our overflow into the 36-inch pipe to reduce the burden on the smaller diameter 12-inch rear yard drain that currently serves the school site as well as the rear yards of the adjacent Wheeling subdivision. And the reduction in release rate going into that 12-inch pipe goes from 20 CFS down to just over 2, which is almost a 90% reduction. As it relates to the discharge to the 36-inch sewer, based on a peak flow analysis, we are discharging the drainage, the discharge to just under 19 CFS. So that is a reduction of 21.5%. So the intent of a stormwater management facility is to take the peaks and slow the water down so that the peaks are not occurring at the same time. Ultimately, the water all ends up in the same location, which is where it's going today, which is in the southeast pond of the existing Richfield subdivision. That continues to drain north to the northern Richfield subdivision and then over Hinch Road, under Hinch Road into Echo Lake.
Could you touch briefly on the ridge line and the neighborhood to the north?
Oh, sure. If you could go back 3 slides, please. That one right there. There's been a lot of testimony by the residents to the north about drainage problems on the subdivision to the north. Our site currently has what we call a minor ridge line on the shared lot line or near the shared lot line, our north line and the south lot line of the subdivision to the north. And from a standpoint of we are being respectful of that ridge line and that we're keeping our water on our site. So the flooding that's being experienced that has been noted on Eleanor Drive is a low point of the subdivision to the north. And that street is independent of our system and is actually tributary to another rear yard storm sewer at the northwest quad of the subdivision, of the Ridgefield subdivision. And that also goes into the same pond system in the Ridgefield subdivision. So from the perspective of us contributing to the flooding to the subdivision to the north, we don't have an impact based on the flooding. The only drainage that goes to the north from our subdivision is a small area adjacent to the north property line, and then the Oak Avenue public right-of-way that is between our north property line and Drake Terrace. So from that perspective, I just want to be clear that Eleanor Drive is at a considerably lower elevation than our site. And that is definitively the low point of that subdivision, which is why that area is experiencing some drainage problems that we haven't analyzed that. It's not part of our project. We've spoken briefly with the city and the city engineer about it. But we feel that our proposed development is an improvement to the existing flooding conditions on the current property, as well as the stormwater management system downstream. If you can advance 2 more slides, please. One of the questions that was posed by the Plan Commission was that what is going to be the type of pond that we are proposing. And what we are proposing in order to conform with MWRD regulations as well as Prospect Heights is a naturalized pond bottom that is consisting of wetland vegetation that promotes infiltration to the maximum extent practical, deep root zones in that area. This is not a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers jurisdictional area. Under their protocol, you have a 5-year maintenance program. This is under the conditions of the MWRD and City of Prospect Heights, and their recommendation is a 3-year program that we plan to adhere to as part of our Schedule R or a maintenance exhibit, as that would be part of our permit should the project move forward. As it relates to, there were some concerns by the Plan Commission regarding the consideration of what we call in the engineering terms a tailwater effect of the stormwater management system. If you can go to the next 2 more slides, please. After hearing the comment, we reached out to the Village of Wheeling to gather some information regarding the downstream system, and it's on the Village of Wheeling website. If anybody were to Google Village of Wheeling Stormwater Master Plan, there is a drainage study that is part of it, and the information that you're seeing here is what was obtained from that. And as you can see on this exhibit, the existing South Ridgefield Pond has an existing normal water level of 643.43. Our normal water level is 652. just over 8 feet above that. And the 100-year water elevation of that pond is 651.71, and our high water elevation is 656.5. So we're about 5 feet above that. So as we go into our final engineering, we will incorporate the tailwater, but we believe there'll be a negligible effect based on the differences in elevations for this. We do need to verify the elevations of the Wheeling drainage study to make sure that we are on the same datums. But based on some indications and some tests that we've done, they're within a couple of tenths of a foot, not differences of feet. So a couple of inches if there is a datum, any sort of datum discrepancy. Another thing that I would like to go to, if you can go to slide 39, there were questions brought up at the last meeting regarding the wetlands. So Lexington Homes contracted with a wetland consultant, Midwest Ecological, Mr. Robert Vanny. He performed a wetland report. That report was submitted and is part of the record. There were comments at the last meeting about a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service mapped wetland. Whoever gave that public testimony was accurate. That is what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service map did indicate. One key thing to point out, though, is that that is based on conditions from 1981. So it is an outdated map based on changes that have occurred over time that includes the development of the subdivisions, the redevelopment of the Park District property, the installation of a stormwater management area where the current trees are located. And so after the wetland report and study was done, Hager Engineering went out and surveyed the only wetland flags that were parked there, which is in the southeast quad of the school site, with a portion that goes on to the 2 vacant lots located in the Village of Wheeling property. And it is a small depressional area that has wetland characteristics, mainly due to the failed drain tile and soils conditions below it. Our proposal is to excavate that area, incorporate that into our stormwater management plan, enhance the basin from what currently exists, and mitigate the existing wetland. We would have to go through the permitting process with the municipality as well as the MWRD to move forward with that. I want to just touch base briefly on the community well system. We've received the comments. We are currently at the preliminary stages, and a community well, Prospect Heights does not have a water main system, a public water main system in the vicinity. So Prospect Heights is served by wells for the existing adjacent subdivisions. The Village of Wheeling is located to the west, south, and east of our proposed development, and that is on a potable water system. So as part of our project, our next steps are to perform a hydrogeological study on the aquifer and nearby wells. And the community well system, as we move forward, will be designed for various permitting agencies, including agencies such as the City of Prospect Heights, the IEPA, and the Illinois Department of Public Health. Per conversations with our water consultant, our water supply will not impact the local wells. And if it does, if the studies that we do show a potential impact, one of the solutions is that we go to a deeper aquifer, a deeper formation. And so we're not at that stage to do those detailed studies until we move forward with more detailed final engineering process.
Just the sanitary sewer.
Another item that was brought up was the capacity of the sanitary sewer system. The current sanitary sewer system, it was a system that was installed by the Prospect Heights Sanitary District. And based on conversations with the city, the Prospect Heights Sanitary District no longer exists. That was incorporated, or the sanitary sewer system was acquired by the City of Prospect Heights. What we currently have is there's an 8-inch existing sanitary sewer along our north property line. At the northeast corner of our site, there is a 12-inch sanitary that discharges north to Hinch Road. We do not have any concerns regarding the capacity of that sanitary sewer. We will do more detailed calculations as we get into final engineering, We provided the city engineer with estimated sanitary sewer needs for the development as part of our submittal package, and we can go from there. But just putting things in the perspective, there are some municipalities where their largest sanitary sewer is 12 inches. We're proposing peaks or sanitary sewer flows, I believe just under 0.15 CFS for the project. So, but that'll be fully vetted by also the MWRD and the city of Des Plaines. Our design max discharge is calculated as submitted 0.13 CFS. And from a standpoint of just putting things into perspective, the capacity of the existing 8-inch sewer, which only drains a few lots on the southern portion of the subdivision, is varies from 0.94 to 1.21, so not even 10% of that capacity under a flowing free condition. And the capacity of the 12-inch, based on the plan slopes, is 1.6 CFS. So it's a very large portion of it, but we'll work with the city engineer to prove out any calculations that are needed as we get into the final engineering process.
Thank you, Todd. I'm going to just finish up with the remaining questions and just make a couple of other comments. This, as I said before, this is a plan development, and it's a two-stage process. There's preliminary plan development and there's final plan development. And what the plan development process allows a developer and a community to do is to kind of get engaged. Is the community interested in moving forward with the development as proposed or as amended and modified by the recommendations of a body like yours in the city council? And if there is an engagement, then the developer has got to go prove up all of these engineering issues that Todd has referenced. He's got to prove that the stormwater management provisions, plans, are going to meet all of the regulatory requirements of the several bodies, including the city itself. He's got to prove that the potable water is not going to adversely impact, the wells are not going to adversely impact the surrounding wells. And Nate has authorized me to tell you that we know this is a sensitive issue in your community, and we are amenable to having the city hire its own independent consultant as well as its own city engineer to test what we are doing to assure the neighborhood that we are not going to draw down their wells and we're going to leave their wells dry. All of these types of engineering issues, the sanitary sewer, these are all going to have to get proven out and have to satisfy not only the city, but other government bodies with a regulatory approval. It applies to the wetlands, which Todd just mentioned. So that's how plan developments work. You know, back when I started, it was sort of a modern concept. Now it's sort of old hat, but it's a tried and true way of allowing a development to proceed and for investment to follow, presuming this municipality is interested. The remaining issues that the chairperson and Mr. Mellon have asked deal with traffic and parking. And Louis Abuna has patiently sat by, but I'm going to mess up traffic engineering, and you guys can ask him questions when I get it wrong. But in Ms. Dash's question 6 about the parking that's required, our traffic engineer will testify that the parking standard is satisfied, that the standard is 2 parking spaces per unit, and referencing a question by Mr. Mellon, that 2 parking spaces within the garage satisfies the city's requirements and that there isn't a separate requirement. I can also tell you that there are 26 spaces that exist right now at the park, in the parking lot, and that there will be 26 new modern, well-organized parking spaces if this development proceeds, as well as 40 guest parking spaces. Mr. Mellon raised a very interesting question about looking at what the parking requirements are like when you look at the ball field requirement under the city code. And we would suggest that you should not include the area in the detention pond, which is included in the park district, which brings the net amount of land area dedicated to parkland to 130,000 square feet, which neatly turns out to be 26 parking spaces. So to Mr. Mellon's question as to whether, in question 10, as to whether we have sufficient parking, we would submit that we do, that we've satisfied the guest parking spaces. There aren't any guest parking spaces requirements, in fact, but we have 40. We've looked at many developments in the surrounding area and to your neighbors, and we are providing far more guest parking spaces than you would find in other communities.
No restriction to park use also.
Yes, and again, this is a classical, we've always looked for these opportunities for shared parking. And this is a great opportunity for the park users to share parking on this development, for the development to use the parking spaces on the park when they're not necessary. There was a request by a concern about why recommend removing the left turn restriction. I believe you've been provided with an affidavit by the owner, Gigi, who does testify that there were very few students transported by bus, and that it was mostly people coming to and from to pick up their children. The no left turn sign that's found at the end of Oak is a result of the city putting that no left turn sign there. I believe our traffic engineer would testify that you can't put up a stop sign unless there's warrants, and that the warrants are not there to have a no left turn sign. And does it not make more sense to disperse the traffic in an orderly way, moving to the left and to the right? So that's why our traffic impact study is recommending the elimination of that sign. There's a question about including in the CCRs a restriction with respect to prohibiting parking on the driveways. We wholeheartedly agree, and that is or will be included. As far as an agreement with the homeowners association to allow enforcement of this requirement, we totally agree. Communities do this all the time. Moving up to the last set of questions that the two of you posed to us, the backup SSA and HOA, we are firmly in support of a backup SSA for the public improvements. And if the water system were to remain with the homeowners association, absolutely. If the water system is sold to a private water company, that may be a problem because of ICC regulations. So we would just move carefully about committing to that at that point, but we'll continue to look into it. Yes, in terms of Ms. Dash's question, acknowledging that all ownership and maintenance of common open space will be the responsibility of the HOA, yes. And then I think we have, you'd asked about a backup SSA for the maintenance of the pavement. I include that in the detention areas. I include that in a homeowners association owned a water system. I include it in the parking spaces. I include it in all the common areas, including the roads. We firmly commit to that. Before I stop, I just want to let you know that we were listening carefully to what was stated last week. And we do have a few other slides that we're not going to go into any detail, but I just want you to know that we were paying attention. Slide 41, if you could turn to that, is a proposed motor court screening exhibit. As we were sitting here listening last week, Nate looked at that condition and said that in the motor courts adjacent to those single-family residences, that we need to have some screening, and that's the screening that we're proposing. Moving to exhibits 44 to 48. Earlier in my presentation, if we could go to 44. These are all exhibits that identify the conditions where we're looking for what I think are minor departures from your ordinance. And finally, there were a lot of questions and concerns about the one-way in, and that is a condition that exists in many neighborhoods in Prospect Heights. It existed to serve this school and a park, and it's always the way that it's going to be. And what we've shown in slides 49 to 56 are other communities that have the same condition. And you can check with the director as far as what the fire protection district's views are on this. I haven't seen a response from them, but I believe that they would agree that this is a condition that they can handle. And with that, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, that concludes our rebuttal, or at least our supplemental information, responding to some very serious, very well-considered questions that were put to us, as well as well-considered questions were raised by hopefully our neighbors sometime in the future. So thank you. You have to move me?
Yeah, thanks, team, for providing those responses. And I know you went through that quickly. You were well prepared, obviously, but we may still want to revisit some of those topics just in a little more detail. So I guess what I would want to ask, do you have any other responses in response to anything that you heard tonight? I know the TIF was mentioned. I know that one of the the public comment that came in writing from
Ms. Meyer.
From was it Mary Jo? MJ Meyer. There were some questions in there. So I guess, have you provided all the response you intend to, or are there some additional information from the resident comments and or things you heard tonight that you'd like to speak to? And Patrick, you can unmute, please, the Lexington team. They've self-muted themselves.
Have them switch to the slide with the site plan or something.
Okay, so could we move to the slide with this?
40, I think this is.
Yeah, slide 40, please.
Pages, we can put one. All right, yeah, we know her name.
So there was a gentleman that raised some questions about rentals and subsidized housing, and I'm not going to touch the question about subsidized housing. I think that the story tells itself. These are units that are going to be priced in the low to mid $300,000. Those are not the kind of units that are built but for people who are going to be owner occupied. We don't have a rental restriction in our CCRs. We don't think we need it with this kind of a price point, but that's the way that it's set up right now. We want to be, we don't intend to make it into a rental development, and we don't think that price points like this would lend themselves to that. So that's the answer to that. Good.
I guess what I wanted to add just to add to what you're saying about rentals, and maybe you guys want to talk to this, but some townhome communities do put in their declaration that they restrict rentals, and I think what we saw in the downturn is that created a big problem for people who wanted to move from an attached single-family product such as a townhome into maybe a detached single-family home because now they've had kids and they're looking for something bigger, but they weren't wanting to sell their townhome at a loss because of, obviously the real estate market, fluctuates. And it really caused a lot of havoc. People, walked away from their units and, went on then to move into single family homes. So from what I've seen, I think putting a restriction in from a rental ultimately can be a detriment to the community because you've potentially created a situation as our economy, as real estate values, fluctuate.
Oh. Yeah, we've this is Nate Weinsman with Lexington Homes. I was sworn in at the previous hearing as well. We've experienced the same thing you just described. So, typically we don't have those restrictions written into our declarations. However, there's nothing to restrict the homeowners association from taking action on that at a later date to amend their declarations and cease ours.
Yeah, and I think the other protection here that people should be aware of is that being this is a town and community, it's going to be managed and maintained by a professional management company who will contract for landscape maintenance and snow removal, exterior maintenance of the building. So even if there would be a renter in one of these units, the community is, let's say that renter doesn't take pride in ownership. That's really a non-issue under this circumstance because everything is being maintained. Again, from landscaping and snow removal to building maintenance, a renter wouldn't necessarily have an ability to, per se, affect property values because, the professional management company is in place to make sure that the community is maintained to standards that, the owners would expect.
Correct.
So another point just to mention. And then it does sound like too that the city has an inspection program,
Very strong.
a very strict inspection program for rental units. So in the event a unit was rented, the city would also be involved in making sure that the unit is habitable and safe.
The other question that was raised that I think was outside of some of the stormwater and traffic issues and things that had previously been raised that I think addressed in our overall presentation was the question related to the TIF, tax increment financing district. And specifically, I think the question that was asked by MJ Meyer as it relates to when will taxes be paid? If this is a TIF, and I think we've covered this before, that right now there are no taxes being generated for any of the taxing bodies that would typically collect school districts, park districts, library districts, all the way up to county forest preserve districts and pension plans and things like that. The development of this property, we think, will add a significant amount of assessed valuation. The TIF, the way in very simple terms, a TIF functions is, number one, the tax bills for the townhomes here and the residents here will be no different than they would be anywhere. Those taxes get paid. The city then distributes those taxes. And even though the TIF district is for a period of time of 22 or 23 years in total, there will be specific carve-outs for the school district annually that based on initially based on projections of school-age children, and then ultimately on actual attendance of school-age children, the school districts will receive a portion of those taxes, regardless of the conditions of the TIF. So the school district will receive ongoing taxes from the development as soon as tax bills begin to get paid. The park specifically is, as we've kind of represented, we're in negotiations with the park district on what I would refer to as really a development agreement that would include the swap of land that we've talked about, the full redevelopment and improvement of Muir Park. There's also a significant amount of money that we are paying to the park district, whether that is in the form of upfront payment or impact fees. But the park district will receive revenue immediately from the development. The library district will receive impact fees from the development immediately. Those would typically be paid at building permit. The fire protection district also would receive a fairly significant impact fee. That's the final amounts of those are to be determined at final, but as it relates to the city, there's also permit fees, impact fees paid to the city. So I think it's really the answer, and maybe I haven't quite given the answer yet, but the answer is really a combination of two things: property taxes being paid and distributed out to those entities by the city, and then also a combination of upfront fees paid as permit or impact fees, and or fees paid under the negotiated terms of the development agreement with the park district. So it's a little bit complicated, but the answer is that every step of the way along the development of the property, should it receive final approval and begin development, and through construction, all those entities will be paid fees and or tax revenue.
So I think, Ms. Dash, those are the only other questions that we can recall from tonight that we didn't address. But we understand that Mr. Azzaro will be having some questions, and we will put the same effort into responding to those as we hope you thought we've put into responding to yours and Mr. Mellon's.
Okay.
Right to come back.
Okay, so I think it sounds like we can open up for some questions from the commissioners at this point. I know we're probably going to run another maybe 15 to 30 minutes. So I think maybe we'll use this remaining time to take some questions from the commissioners, and then when we resume,
Then we'll
here, you can speak up, Dan. You can talk
Um,
louder. Sorry.
Hi, Director Peterson here. The one thing we do have to do before we vote to continue this meeting is the commissioners will have to establish a date certain so everybody on the call knows when that is. And then we can publish the agenda and the call information for the Zoom meeting on the city's website. As this has been noticed twice now by mail and on site, future sign-in will be, people will have to look to the city's website to get that login information and the agenda. And it will be posted as soon as we can schedule a meeting and a date is established.
Okay, so at tonight's meeting, we're going to finalize a date for the, okay. So that'll take a little bit of time too.
Correct. So we got about 15 minutes of questions.
All right, so yeah, and then, so we'll do, again, just a short amount of time here, maybe 15 minutes to take some questions, but then at the next special meeting, then we'll have to open it up to additional public testimony on, the new information that you've provided here in your rebuttal. So I guess maybe I'll just start, right? I know that Commissioner Mellon and I did provide you guys with a lengthy list. And I know you did, cover those wholly this evening, but I guess I just have a few questions. And I do know that I've seen questions from Commissioner Saywert as well. So we'll need time, in our next meeting to, obviously field questions from the commissioners. So Patrick, you can, if the Lexington team has muted themselves, that's fine, but make sure they have the ability to unmute themselves. So I guess generically, what I'd like to say is, again, thank you for responding to these questions. As you stated, I may be uniquely qualified to review this case because I am in the field per se. So I did ask a lot of very specific questions. And I guess generically what I'd like to say is that I do know that from a water supply standpoint, from a stormwater management standpoint, also from sewer capacity, those are all items that are heavily regulated and heavily permitted. And so as you could, see from the list, the questions I provided, I will rely on the city's engineer to make sure that all of their concerns are addressed. And I do understand that at this point we are still, you're seeking preliminary, approvals. But I think that certainly the topic of the proposed water supply system affecting, existing wells is very important. And I think the sooner that the city can have that information to review, the better, because I do personally feel that, if there is a positive recommendation made to the city council, I would certainly be with the condition that our engineers agree that whatever, that this community well you're going to be installing certainly won't affect the existing residents. And again, I know it's highly regulated. There's a lot of permitting involved. And so again, from an engineering standpoint, when it comes to stormwater and sanitary and the water system you're providing, I will leave that up to the city engineer to verify that that what you're proposing is suitable. I would like to maybe talk a little bit more about parking. I lived in a Concord townhome, exactly what you're proposing here in Wheeling. And so I'm familiar with how these units are laid out and how they live. And I think in regards to parking, in the community I lived in, not only did you have the 2 spots in your garage, but you also had 2 spots on your driveway. And I know here you're not proposing that. And I guess what I'd like to say is that I know that our code is only 2 parking spots per unit, but I do feel that our code is very driven by the R1 single family concept that, you have a single family detached home on a half-acre lot. And so certainly, those homes have plenty of parking, whether it be in their garage or in their driveway. So I do feel that here, there is, I'm concerned about the parking. I'm concerned that even though you've provided guest spaces, you've given the management company the discretion in your CC&Rs to sort of manage and monitor that. I'm fairly certain those guest parking spots you're identifying are going to be in high demand. And I doubt that those residents are going to be calling up the property management company to see if they can park there. I'm also leery about the number of parking spots you've allocated to the shared parking spots near the park site. And I don't know that we'll get into it tonight, but I would like to include the Park District in some of these conversations. Again, I do picture residents utilizing those parking spots because, you know, they're gonna have garbage cans in their garage. You know, we know what people put in their garages, right? There might be a grill in there, other things. And I do think that they're gonna wanna utilize these parking spots. And in the event, the multi-use fields that are being proposed here have scheduled programming, I feel that there's going to be a conflict between, you know, the guests already utilizing those spots and, you know, the people coming to utilize the Park District area there. Again, I think there could be a problem with parking. So again, I know our ordinance is 2 spots per unit, but I think that's very driven by the typical product that you see in our town. So I think I'd like you guys to think on that a bit more. And again, I'd like to probably pull in the Park District to get their take on things in regards to making sure there's ample parking for their land there. So let's see, I don't know, I guess I could, if you don't have a response, I guess I can just keep going on that. I'm glad that the backup SSA is something that you guys have agreed to. I think that's important to protect everybody's best interest. I like that you added the second connection with the park. I've played many softball games at Muir Park, and the amount of pedestrian and bike traffic between the apartments and the park is it's really fantastic. I mean, there are a ton of kids from that area who utilize that park, and I think that by having the second access point, you're going to make that a whole lot more accessible to the neighbors there. So that's a good improvement to the plan.
Does Patrick have any?
No, they're meeting themselves, I think. Again, I still probably am a little unclear in regards, I know you stated tonight about the variances that you're seeking. So I don't know if Commissioner Mellon is curious too, but I guess maybe I can work with staff to understand, like, per code, you know, what would the density requirement be? What would, you know, open space be? It sounds like we've covered parking, that they're certainly meeting that one.
Commissioner Davis, this is Commissioner Mellon. Sorry to interrupt you. Director Peterson, when the public hearing's over and all questions have been asked and we're voting on a recommendation for the PUD and the map amendment, there will need to be a list of all the variances being requested, correct?
That is correct.
So ultimately, that's going to need to be enumerated in just a straight list of each of the variances and what ordinance or what title in the ordinance that they're referring to that would be requested as a variance from the B2 district, correct?
Yes.
So, Mr. Burning, you know, in terms of format, I mean, ultimately, in my opinion, while you addressed the questions I asked a lot of questions via email on Sunday through Director Peterson's office about some zoning issues related to setbacks and things of that nature. I think ultimately, I think what would help would be just a straight list of which items in the ordinance you're requesting a variance to, and that so that way we can verify that there aren't any other variances. And
when whatever.
And then ultimately that list will be incorporated into the voting request.
Mr. Mellon, I think I see it. We're going to go through all the what I call bulk requirements, parking, density, side yards, setbacks, et cetera. List the section of the city code in terms of what applies, give you what the condition is, and then if it's a variation or a departure, to identify what that is. Sort of that format.
Right. Ultimately, I think, Mr. Burning, that's going to need to be something that was going to have to directly be stated as part of the vote that we're going to be asked to take. So.
Okay, I'm just trying to see how we set it up so it's clearer than it's been. So I've got an idea. I'll take another shot at it, and if that doesn't work, we'll keep trying.
And when you prepare that, when you comment on the open space percentage that you're providing, can you provide the calculation based on, number one, including the park, and number two, excluding the land that would be owned by the park district?
Yeah, Danielle, that's on the supplemental slides we showed today. If you look at the upper left corner when you have an opportunity, I think we've addressed that.
We'll enumerate it.
We will put it on that diagram, however.
Was it a slide or
Well, it was in the supplemental.
Oh, it's in the supplemental. Okay, I have that. I will look at that again. I understand the position that the city has the right to consider the park as open space, which I'm not here to debate. I just wanted to understand the numbers, with and without the park being included.
Chairman Dash, so this is Commissioner Sayward, and I do have questions. I know it's late, but my question is primarily related to the planned unit development standards that we have to judge the development, whether or not it should be approved or not. So at this point, what I'd like to propose is that I would put those in an email to Director Peterson, and he could forward those on, and the questions that I have on the different areas of the planned unit development standards, then we could talk about at the next meeting.
Application.
That would be appropriate.
Certainly.
Chairman, in response to the Plan Commission Chairwoman's questions, I assume that she saw our project narrative and that we have attempted to address both the plan unit development standards and the special use standards. And we have a narrative addressing each of those standards. So perhaps to the extent that she has questions about what we set forth, that might be a place to start.
And that's exactly what I have questions on, is your responses in your application.
Perfect.
So I'll refer to each of the pages in your application for the questions I have.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So I guess then we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes because I know we need to determine a date for the next special meeting. One quick question that came to mind as well. Well, first I'd like to say that the plan that we're looking at on the screen right now is definitely a land plan that I feel works. I do feel like it does a good job as a transitional use between the, R4 district to the west, and then R3 districts on the east and south sides. It's a good transitional use. And I like how this plan really gives the community still a sense of being able to utilize that park, even though they will have to, drive through, Oak Circle to get back there. The configuration of the parking adjacent to the park site feels good. And I would say in the alternate plan that apparently we've been asked to, comment on, I really do not feel that plan creates a sense of welcoming to that park area. And I don't know if you still have that on a slide, we could put that up real quick.
Slide 31.
Yeah, so to me, the plan on the right feels very much like the Park District. You know, the only point to access that ball field and that park is going to be adjacent to that existing building, and I can't see the number, I apologize. I just don't feel that that configuration is very welcoming. It doesn't, I think there's going to be a huge parking problem there because you're going to have people who live in that building parking out front, and I don't know how the Park District will get their trailers in there to mow grass. Again, I just don't feel that that optional plan is creates a good transition from the proposed townhomes to the open space area that people in this area enjoy, and people throughout the community. And I don't live in this part of town, but again, I've been to Muir Park probably more times than I care to admit, with coaching my daughter's softball team and all those fun things. So, so I guess in regards to the current proposed plan with the 69 units, knowing that there's been some wetland floodplain areas delineated here, I haven't looked at the grading plan, but the area, the 4.25 acre, 4.5 acres that will remain there for the park site, is that going to be high and dry, or is some of that land going to be encumbered by wetland and or floodplains?
You're referencing the proposed 69 unit plan or the 61 unit plan?
The 69 unit plan is the new, 4.5 acres that the Park District will have. Is that high and dry, or is that?
Well, the area that you see in the stormwater management area, that is a native wetland bottom.
Yeah, I understand.
But everything from the cul-de-sac south that we're showing an optional multi-use field there, that's all high and dry.
So it'll be great. Yeah, it'll be graded so that it drains. There's not going to be any like depressional areas that are floodplain or floodway or.
Correct.
Okay, good. So yeah, that addresses my concern. Again, I think everyone should know too, a lot of these emails that have come in talk about you're taking away my park and all this open space. And I think the public should know that currently the Park District owns 4.5 acres. And if the proposed plan is approved, they will still own 4.5 acres. So I think it's important to let people know that the open space from your park, although the configuration may be changing, the quantity of land is not changing. And I think that's important, because the remaining land that's there today is a vacant school site that's, I would say, hasn't been maintained likely to maybe some of the neighbor standards with a parking lot. So I don't consider the existing school site and parking lot to be open space area that the neighbors are enjoying. Yeah, I mean, it's private property. So again, I think it's important for people to know that the Park District isn't losing any acreage here. They're starting with 4.5 and they're going to finish with 4.5. So this proposed application doesn't steal open space from any of the neighbors in this area or people who are coming to this area to utilize this. So I would say that this is probably a good time to start talking about when we hold the next special meeting. And I guess maybe we should ask too, is Lenny Sorrow, is he still with us? It looked as though he may have been commuting home, because I'm assuming that
I'm still here.
Hi, Lenny.
Hi.
Good. I just want to make sure you could participate in us talking about when a next special meeting would be.
Thank you.
So
I'll make myself available.
So let's look at our calendars here. I'm not sure what the extra are.
This is Director Peterson. We have a regularly scheduled PZBA meeting on Thursday, the 23rd. However, that agenda is very full, and it would not allow the opportunity for this to have the adequate discussion that it still needs. In looking at calendars, I'm looking at the week of July 27th through the 30th. And if we wanted to keep the Thursday night form, I'm available, the city hall's available, and it would just be up to whether the plan commissioners are available on that evening. That would be my recommendation. Thursday, the 30th.
Of July.
Sex Tigers game.
Really?
Ooh. What game is it?
Tigers.
So maybe we could pull the commissioners. I'm available on the 30th.
I'm available. This is Neil Patel.
Thanks, Neil.
Commissioner DeGraff, I'm available.
This is Commissioner Sayward. I would be available as well.
This is Commissioner Kempa. I would also be available.
Bruce Mellon, I would be available as well.
And is John online or no?
Commissioner Tamman, are you on the line tonight? Or maybe, would he have him muted out?
I have no idea.
Yes, I'm available.
Oh, okay.
Great, John, thank you.
So it looks like we will have a full.
And Lenny, that worked for you? I know you said you'd make yourself available, but is that date?
That day works for me. I can make it.
And the applicants, does that work for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Again, this is Director Peterson. For everybody who's in attendance online and stuff, as this has been duly noted, the next place you'll have to look for the login and sign in will be on the city's webpage under meeting agendas for the Planning Zoning Board of Appeals. It will be listed on there as the next special meeting, and all the appropriate agenda and login information will be placed on that site by by Monday or Tuesday of next week.
We'll also find out how to make available the.
Yes, and the videos of both tonight's meeting and the 25th will be on. It takes a couple days for our AV folks to get this up and running, so it will probably be sometime next week before this is available, but it will be up ample time before the next special meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay, so I would like a motion, please, to continue the public hearing for application number or case number ZBA 20-08 to a special.
I apologize, Chairman Dash. We'd just like to make sure for the record that the motion, I believe the committee has considered the Council Asaro's motion to continue. So I believe that the board would be voting on Council's motion to continue the hearing.
His motion?
Yes, because he's requested it.
Okay, so I'd like a motion to grant the request from Mr. Asaro to continue the tonight's meeting to a special meeting on Thursday, July 30th at 7 p.m.
I'll make that motion. Commissioner DeGraff.
Commissioner Tamman, second.
All right, so Commissioner DeGraff made the motion, and let's go with Commissioner Mellon, who seconded it, only because I can hear him better. So Jen, will you please do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Taman. Okay, Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
And Chairman Dash.
Aye. Do we need John's vote?
No.
Or, okay,
No.
I mean, it passes, so I just,
And then.
okay, right, so let's say, we don't have any communications this evening, I'm
Nope.
assuming?
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I know that there's still, 76 people logged in, whether you be the applicant or staff or board members or residents who came to speak to this evening. So I just want to thank everyone for participating in the process. And we look forward to picking this up where we left off on the next meeting. So with no further business, I'd like a motion, please, to adjourn our special meeting this evening on July 9th, 2020.
Also move.
That
I'll
was-
second it.
Okay, Janet and Commissioner DeGraff. Jen, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff,
Aye.
Commissioner Saywert,
Aye.
Commissioner Kempa,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
4, 5. And Chairman Dash.
Aye.
And Commissioner Tamman, aye.
Now he shows up. Okay.
Thanks,
Commissioner
John.
Tamman.
All right, thanks, everybody.